Tim and Shawn, are you guys ready to start?
We are.
All right, perfect. All right, are we live?
We are.
All right, perfect. All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome to today's City Council study session. Actually, it's probably a special session. We have just one agenda item for tonight. We're going to be talking about the migrant sheltering here in Colorado, which is the reason for the early start before moving to board and commission meeting or interviews. Up first is City Manager Shawn Lewis and Deputy City Manager Tim Dodd to speak about the migrant sheltering here in Colorado. Tim, I'll let you kick us off, I believe.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I'm going to talk a little bit about the background of this issue and then turn it over to City Manager Lewis, who will talk about a few ideas for you to discuss. So about a week before the Christmas holidays, Mayor Sierra received an email as part of the Metro Mayor's group from Mayor Hancock's office saying that Denver had some migrants visit or come to Denver and they needed assistance. At the time, they primarily were looking for assistance with sheltering. Englewood obviously does not have any immediate available sheltering opportunities. And so at that time, we basically offered to help Denver. So we did connect someone from the Emergency Operations Center in the city of Denver to Mike Sangren, who, as you all know, is the Tri-Cities Homelessness Coordinator and also the chair of the Change the Trend group of nonprofits. And so this individual did present Mr. Paul Rosenthal, for about half an hour at a Change the Trend meeting on December 15th. At that meeting, he went over the situation and basically what their needs were. And they did make a connection with a possible motel. They coordinate sheltering within Greenwood Village. I should also note that the city of Englewood did also offer to do a drive. We have quite a bit of experience doing drives there's one going on at the library right now for things like clothing and hygiene products. But we were told at the time that Denver's major need was in terms of sheltering. They didn't need any products or things like that. At the same time, we also have been in contact with Arapahoe County's Office of Emergency Management. As you all know, we do have a contracted full-time emergency management coordinator named Eric White from Arapahoe County, but the deputy director of that office, Ashley Capel, is the person who's really been running point on this. And so just before the holidays, she and Eric did meet with me to basically ask if Englewood had decided to do anything. And I said at that time, no, but that we may be discussing it in the new year. And at that time, the county, they've been monitoring it very closely, but they have also not made a decision to act. And so we did, the last thing I'll say before turning it over to the City Manager Lewis is that last week after one of our leadership team director meetings, we did brainstorm about a few possible options that City Manager Lewis will go over.
Thanks, Tim. I'll start with just some conversations that we've had in response when we did let you know that we were going to be bringing this before you per the mayor's request at a previous council meeting. I mentioned that the leadership team meeting would be taking some time to talk about options should council see fit to proceed. So at the end of our leadership team meeting on January 4th, some of the relevant directors got together and talked about a couple of possibilities. Two buildings actually that are currently vacant and owned by the city that might be most feasible for us as a city to try to utilize. And one is the Tejon Fire Station and one is the Fox Building, which is located behind the police building. And in terms of some ideas and suggestions, should council want to move forward, that we had come up with is really that we needed to avoid trying to use any of our recreation facilities because of the impact on revenue, the impact on staffing for those. We also really feel like that we as a staff are not equipped to run a shelter. That is not our primary strength that we play to as an organization. So we would want to partner with a nonprofit, or have the state or the city and county of Denver really operate that for us, with us just potentially providing a building. And then also just wanted to give council the option that we could reach out to faith communities that may have buildings that could accommodate this. Really, there's no connection to homelessness on this, other than migrants in this case don't yet have a home. But we do want to really separate the fact that our ongoing efforts with regard to homelessness from this temporary kind of migrant sheltering that the state and the city have asked us to consider. But to the point of homelessness, you all have taken steps to make sheltering for overnight cold weather sheltering a possibility in some of those faith communities and buildings that are related to faith communities. So certainly we have some safety precautions that we've already built around that. So the last thing that I'll mention is that in my meeting with the city managers from Arapahoe County, as well as Michelle Halstead from the county, there does not appear to be a strong appetite from either the county or other cities within Arapahoe County to take on this role. So I do want to share that with you. In addition, one of the links that I provided in your council report was from Larimer County, which did initially reach out to some faith communities, provided some sheltering in, I believe, Fort Collins, but they were not able to sustain that. The level of responsibility that it ended up being exceeded their resources to do that. So they pulled back from that offer. Larimer County did. So with that, I'll stop and pause for any questions and any direction from council.
Sounds good. City Manager, thank you very much for that, as well as Assistant City Manager. Any questions from council? Jim, go ahead.
Yeah, a couple of questions. The Fox building, does that have a large room that could actually hold people? As I recall it, it was a bunch of offices, and in the back was storeroom. And the last I heard, police department had a lot of files over there.
Thanks for the question, Mayor and Member Woodward. Yes, the back part of that that you reference as storage is still storage and has been mostly vacated. There are a few things like some of our confiscated bicycles, I think, are stored there. But and you are correct, the front part of that is offices. But when we look at both the fire station having kind of the bays of the fire station, and then Fox having that large, room in the back that was storage, with both having offices associated and adjoining, that's why we thought that either of those buildings could provide very limited, numbers, but potentially a location for sheltering.
Okay. The other question I have would be, has there been a discussion or anybody checked with the LNR regarding the 24-hour fitness?
Thank you again for the question, Member Woodward. You and I discussed that, and I apologize. We have not gotten a response from LNR with regard to that. And so we will keep trying.
Okay. And then the very last thing I have is, I think is a point. These are not illegal migrants, as I understand it. They're all legal. So I know we had received an email this morning, and it represented that they were illegal aliens, which they are not, from what my understanding of who's coming in. That's all I have.
Thank you, Member Woodward. Member Russell.
Thank you. So why have we not had somebody come from Denver to speak with City Council?
Thank you for the question. I'm not really sure.
Okay, it seems to me that if we're thinking about helping, we need more information from the people that are, I guess my other question is, do we have staff to staff these buildings?
I think the answer for really in the, anything longer than a week time frame, no. I think we would exhaust staff resources pretty quickly. When we had the emergency sheltering for the extreme weather a few weeks ago, we were able to get volunteers to do that. That is not a sustainable model. Most of those volunteers did their overnight shift and then showed up for work at 8 o'clock. Obviously, we can't sustain that long with the number of people that we'd be able to round up from the staff.
And do you want me to go ahead and weigh in, Mayor, or actually I'll give Member Noonan-Camp an opportunity to ask questions? Thank
I
you.
appreciate that, Member Russell. Member Noonan-Camp.
Thanks. To your recommendation, City Manager Lewis, about potentially just providing space, but allowing another government entity to facilitate the shelter, and due to your point just now about staffing, do we have a liability concern at all about doing it that way using our property? I don't know if we've looked into that. And you may have mentioned this, and I'm sorry if I missed it as I was coming into the meeting, but is anyone else doing that model, offering just space, but asking the state or the city of Denver to manage it?
I would have to refer to the city attorney's office on the liability question. To my knowledge, we haven't looked into that in depth without, direction from council, but maybe you need that information to give direction. And then I have not heard of another city offering space, no. But that's not to say that they haven't been, but from the cities in Arapahoe County, I think the answer is no. And as I mentioned, Larimer County really said the only thing that they're going to provide moving forward is going to be staffing resources that they can send to Denver upon request. We know that they are no longer offering facilities.
Thanks. I don't know if the city attorney's office has something to weigh in on liability.
Regarding the liability portion of it, it would really depend on who we partner with and essentially what type of conditions they might put on doing this for us. It's definitely something we could discuss if we were to find a partner that would volunteer or would want to take this on.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Member Noonan-Camp. I'll ask some questions. City Manager, have we had any communication with Denver since they came and met with Change the Trend on the 15th?
Not to my knowledge. Deputy City Manager Dodd, do you know of any?
No, not that I'm aware of.
Okay. I'm assuming that there's still an ongoing need in Denver for the migrant situation. Obviously, Governor Polis, there was a story about Governor Polis and no longer busing migrants to Chicago and New York. So that came out last night, I believe it was. And Mayor Hancock today, before we came on, also stated that they may not be able to use rec facilities that they're currently using moving forward. So how long is this ongoing need that, do they have an expectation of what the ongoing need is here? And I guess the question is, if we're not able to help, what happens next?
There may be members of council that have a better answer to the question about ongoing need. I think that is one of the big unknowns for this is how long will it last? What would be the expectation should we enter into some sort of agreement or commitment? How long would that commitment last? I think all of that remains to be seen.
Thank you, City Manager Lewis. Mayor Pro Tem.
Yeah, I think this is a place where we might ask for some federal intervention. I'll note that we have a meeting with Congressman Crow scheduled, I believe, just next week. I'm not entirely certain that the city is in a position to provide assistance. I looked at some numbers today. I'll just give an example. Denver's general fund is $1.6 billion. In 2022, they spent on homelessness programs, and I know that this is not directly related to homelessness, but these migrants are homeless. So they spent as much as our city's entire general fund, $63 million on homelessness programs. So just based on scale, it's difficult for me to understand where we would fit in on this compared to the type of response that Denver is able to provide.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, for that. Anything else? Any
I
other
guess my
questions?
question there is, can we add that to the list of things that we discuss with Congressman Crow when we meet with him? Because I think this is definitely a federal issue.
Completely in agreement with that, Mayor Pro Tem. Anyone in disagreement with having this as a point of conversation with? I think we have a majority there. Okay, any other questions, Mayor Pro Tem?
No, that's
Anyone
it for
want
me.
to weigh? Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Anyone want to weigh in on direction for staff? Member Russell.
Thank you, Mayor. And I have some of the same concerns that the Mayor Pro Tem has with the size of the city, our budget, our resources, and everything else. And another major concern for me is that Arapahoe County themselves are just waiting on the matter. That's where our resources and our money come from. And until they decide which direction they're moving forward with, I think that our hands are tied because that's where our money and our help is. I wonder where Aurora is at on this. Aurora is another city that has far more resources than the city of Englewood. I just think there are a lot of issues with this, and I'm just not sure that it's wise to move forward. I think if we are thinking about that, we need to have a meeting at a regular city council meeting when people can respond, because I've already had several people reach out to me, and I think it's going to be tough to get public support for this. So that's all I have.
Thank you, Member Russell. Anyone else want to weigh in? I guess Member Anderson.
Thank you, Mayor. You know what, what I've been kind of listening for is like emergency need. Like I don't think we have any kind of resources for standing up a long-term, sheltering situation with our resources. I do think emergency, kind of an emergency need. But what, I'm not hearing that Denver is beating down the door to get our help. I don't know how they're handling it. I don't, but I do think this is something I'm open to helping with, but I'm not sure it is the kind of thing we have the resources with, especially in the context of what, the context of the information that we know, and the fact that it seems like the situation is some of these migrants are getting redirected, and some of them are currently being sheltered. So I'm happy to, if Denver comes back, or if we can reach out to them again and understand the nature of the need and if there really is a situation, then I think we do need to, with the level of resources we would be able to offer, we'd need to coordinate with some other municipalities to actually have an impact. But based on what I'm hearing right now, I'm not sure we have the resources to tackle this.
Thank you, Member Anderson. Member Noonan.
Yeah, my views are similar. I'm the staff plan that's been outlined in the council memo about, maybe we could just offer space, I think is probably the extent of what we could do. And I wouldn't want to offer that unless we had clarity around the liability. But just to say, if we have vacant space that's not being used and they need just space and they could facilitate it, that's something that I'd be open to at least having the conversation about if it was still emergent for them. And if we can be part of like a triage situation, I think we could offer that. But unfortunately, I don't see us having the ability to do more than that at this time.
Thank you, Member Noonan. Anyone else want to weigh in? I can weigh in. I'm in agreement with Member Noonan. I guess the three council members said very similar things here. I do want to provide the opportunity to use space in the future, but I don't want to do that without knowing what type of staff would be available to monitor the situation and just keep everyone safe. So I don't want to go in there just offering space and just knowing and not really having a plan for how we would just house everyone and just supervise the situation. I do agree that we need backing from Arapahoe County, from the federal government, just ongoing conversations about this, about how we can do this successfully if there is a way. So I'm not going to say no to not offering sheltering, but at this point, I don't think we have the resources available to do that. So I would ask staff to just take an inventory of what would be available if we got to that point. So anyone else want to weigh in, Mayor Pro Tem?
Yeah, and to the extent that there's an opportunity here to coordinate regionally, I mean, I don't want to pass over the fact that these are people and these are people in need. And, you know, while we might not be in a position to handle their needs immediately, if we can be part of a regional partnership, or we can in some way coordinate some sense of relief, I'm willing to do that. And I think that's a benefit to everyone in the community.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Member Woodward. You're on mute, Member Woodward. Still on mute.
I am with the rest of the speakers regarding resources, and like the Mayor Pro Tem, I would like to do whatever we can for other human beings and stuff, provide what we can, but I think we're a little short on either one of our choices right now of our city buildings, that is the fire station and the Fox building. From what I was hearing, the bus loads that were coming in were, 100 people at a time. So I don't know how we could provide for something like that and what our choices are, but I'd sure like to have some more information out of Denver to know what's going, what they're looking for specifically. That's it.
Thank you, Member Woodward. Thank you. City Manager Lewis, Assistant City Manager Dodd, I think you have direction for members of council here. Obviously, it's a very difficult situation. Obviously, we want to be able to help and do more. I appreciate the response that both of you and Change the Trend and our partners have shown up to this point. I know we're falling short, but I'm happy that we're able to at least continue the conversations if needed. So, City Manager Lewis, is there anything else that you want to add?
Just that we will continue to kind of monitor the regional approach. To Member Russell's question about Aurora, they indicated that they were not in a position to assist either. But if something does develop, obviously I was talking to staff members, it will be the elected bodies who really direct how those organizations move forward. If something changes with that, I'll come back to council. If there is a more regional approach that Mayor Pro Tem mentioned, coalescing, we'll come back to council and talk to you about that at that time.
Sounds good, City Manager Lewis. Anything else from members of council? If not, that now concludes this first agenda item, and we're moving on to boards and commissions. We're going to be starting at the top of the hour. Did anyone need a short break, or should we just hammer out the process for tonight and identify who's going to ask what question? Are you guys fine with continuing now?
Yeah, let's talk process now and then take a break before our first applicant if we have time.
Sounds good. Let me get to that agenda item. So we have several applicants tonight. We'll be going until about 8:20 or 8:30 tonight. Same level of questions I would be asking. So we have 7 questions, and then there are a number of positions that are available tonight. A few that are taken up by reapplications that I seem to have seen everyone did receive a letter of recommendation to join on or to keep them on for the next term. At the end of the night, we're going to go ahead and try to place people in positions, and then we'll vote on them again on the meeting for the 23rd? It's the 23rd. So any questions regarding that process?
Just one note, Mayor, considering that all of the reapplicants received letters of recommendation, can we start with the premise that we'll be reappointing all the reapplicants?
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I like that idea. Anybody have objection to that? No, I agree with that, Mayor Pro Tem. Looks like there's no disagreement with members of council.
Thank you.
Perfect. let's see here. So there's just a couple things. I'm fine asking the first question, just providing a lead in to each of the applicants. Anybody want to take the second question? Joe, I'll have you for the second. The third question.
I can do the third.
Thank you, Member Noonan-Camp. The fourth question. Member Russell. The fifth question. Mayor Pro Tem, and then the sixth question. Jim, are you okay with that? Jim, are you okay? Actually, I'll take the seventh question until Member Wink arrives. She did let me know that she was going to be not in attendance for the first item, but she will be in attendance for the boards and commission meetings. So we need a timekeeper. Anybody want to volunteer for a timekeeper? Jim, your hand's up. Do you want to volunteer for that? I'm joking with you.
Mayor, I can keep time.
Okay. Sounds good,
You want me
Jackie.
to not? Go ahead.
Yeah, we'll start the time when we get to the first. We want to give everybody 10 minutes, so we'll start when I open the dialogue to the applicants. Jackie.
You want a 1 minute warning when it's towards the end?
Yes, we'll give a one
Okay.
minute warning. You can just raise your hand and see if they're able to see it.
Perfect.
All right. Anything that I may have missed?
I was just
All right,
gonna say real quick, I'm sorry. The Malley Trust Fund did not have any applicants. And then last week, member Woodward had mentioned there was a gentleman that had wanted to apply.
Mhm.
I've never received the application. Debbie and Fritz reached out to me today from the rec center. Also thought he had applied, but you do have to be 55 or older and actively engaged in the Malley Center.
Okay.
So I think it's up to you guys, but it's a position I think you could hold off till the summer because they only meet a few times of the year, unless somebody that you interviewed tonight is qualified. But we
Okay.
did not have any applicants for that. So
Jackie, that's great. Thank you very much for that context.
Mhm.
Perfect. Any other questions? Any ground rules?
I have a question.
Sure.
Are we going to deliberate tonight after the interviews?
Yeah, we will. We'll go through them one by one, and just since there were no objections to the reappointments, we'll start with that and then just move down the line.
Okay.
Anything else? All right, everyone. We can meet again here at about 6 o'clock with the first applicant. So if you're able to take a break, please do so. See you guys in about 18. Hello, Member Wink. We assigned you the 7th question, if that's okay.
Thanks, Sierra. How are you doing?
I'm good.
Good.
A little under the weather, but we'll get through it.
Yeah, okay.
Got my tea.
Good. Good.
Joe approves. All right, it looks like we have all council members. We'll just give it a couple minutes. I see Miss Tina Prang is online. We'll give her 1 more minute. Let's start at 6.
I'm here. I'm just following the rules of being muted and having the camera off.
Sounds good. I think we might want to just get started then, if we're ready to go. Jackie, are you ready to go?
Yes, we are ready to go.
All right, perfect. All right. Well, good evening, Ms. Prang. Thank you for joining us tonight and for applying for a board of commission. Tonight, we're going to be asking you 7 questions. You have 10 minutes to answer those questions. At the 9-minute mark, you'll see Jackie actually put her hand up. We'll see if that'll work this time around. But at 9 minutes, you'll have a 1-minute warning. And then if we do have any time remaining, we may ask any follow-up questions. So do you have any questions for me before we get started?
I don't. Thank you for the opportunity to be here.
Thank you. Ms. Prang, thank you very much. And what motivates you to apply for an Englewood board or commission at this time? And sorry for being so formal.
Oh, totally fine. So I was motivated after coming out of a period of time of stepping away from public service after serving on the Englewood School Board. I just had a much needed time frame of spending time with my kids and just being a mom for a while. But I do have a very strong passion and drive to serve in my local community. And I've just started to resurface and explore areas that I could do service for our community. And this seemed an interesting group. I've watched a few of your prior meetings and it seems like a very collaborative group, the commission. And it interested me in working with a group of people who collaborate so well on an issue that, or decisions that sometimes can be challenging within our community.
Thank you so much, Ms. Prang. Second question is to Joe, I believe.
Good evening, Ms. Prang. My question for you tonight is, what knowledge, skills, or abilities would you bring to P&Z? And in particular, how would Englewood benefit from your service on P&Z?
Okay, so I don't have any specific background on planning and zoning. I do have quite a bit of experience working along with the city, both city staff and city officials at the time when I was sitting on the Englewood School Board when we rebuilt all of our schools. And as some of you may know, there were, a small handful of issues that popped up along our development plans. And as we built on our sites, some of those issues being, flood mitigation scenarios and what we would, implement in our development plans to address those issues. We did have to go back and forth a few times on city sidewalks and things of that nature. So while I don't have an educational background or direct experience working in this area, I definitely have that flavor of working alongside the city staff and officials to come to common, decisions and solutions. So that would be most of my experience. I think the other piece of that, as far as what I could bring to that commission, is just, some basic understanding of Robert's rules of engagement. Definitely having a lot of experience participating in public hearings and forums on things like budgets and plans and garnering that broader stakeholder input. And I am not afraid to sit amongst a group who has made a tough decision. And even if I, personally didn't agree with the end result of the decision, just knowing that vital importance of once a decision is made, you stand as a group and you present as a group and stand together behind that decision. And I think that's vital.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question is to Member Noonan.
Ms. Prang, thank you for being here. I'm Chelsea Noonan-Camp, a council member for District 2. Can you share an experience with us from your past when you've worked with a group of people who were diverse and sometimes held opposing views or perspectives?
Pretty much every school board meeting that we had. Yeah, definitely my school board experience, working with, community members, students, teachers, administrators, and oftentimes that came with varying opinions on what direction we should head. Just really having to take time to sit and listen to stakeholder input and try to understand why those divergent opinions are coming from where they're coming from, where that perspective may reside. I think it's also really important to be a sense maker. Oftentimes, I would anticipate this commission, not only do you have to educate yourself on the Unified Development Code and the comprehensive plan for the city, but being able to not only absorb that information yourself, but then be able to distill it down to a level where broader members of the community, even children, can understand what goes into decision-making around issues. I would say in every single one of our new school builds, when we hosted town halls or stakeholder meetings for those, or even just making the decision to go after the bond to build the new schools, there were a lot of varying opinions. And especially on our first bond, I think there was like a 16 vote difference in the passage of that. So, that speaks to a community that was relatively divided on whether we should move forward with that effort or not. And we had a lot of members of our community who, essentially felt that new schools were not necessary for the future of our kids, and that, where they went to school in Englewood was good enough for them, so it was good enough for their kids. And just trying to bring some of those voices on board with the idea of, moving into the future. And while teachers and what they teach is obviously incredibly important to our children's future, having the right tools and having a safe space and having buildings that don't leak gas are also important. So
that's great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Tina, just to remind you, you have 10 minutes for all 7 questions, probably down to like 2 minutes for the last 4. So Member Russell.
Okay.
Good to see you again, Ms. Prang.
Hi,
And my question for you is, what do you like most about Englewood?
I just think it's a gem. I've lived in a handful of cities, as an adult, and I landed here and decided to stay to raise my children. It's a small, tight-knit community. I like to think of it as a small dysfunctional family some days. And I like all the different voices that are here. It's a great place to raise kids.
Great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Sorry about that. My question for you is, what, if anything, would you like to see improved in Englewood regarding the board or commission that you applied for?
I don't really have a solid answer for that. I think the board does challenge, or the commission does challenging work. So just continuing to build on the collaboration that I've seen, same page goal and in the communication of the decisions that are made.
Member Woodward.
Hi, Tina, and thank you for your service to the school district for
Thank you.
the many years. Regular attendance and engagement with the board is required. Will you be able to attend the scheduled meetings, which are on Tuesday evenings, 7 o'clock?
Absolutely. Yes. It looked like it was, is it Tuesdays and Thursdays? The Tuesday and Thursday after? No, it's just once a month. Okay. Yeah, absolutely can participate. I work for the state currently and will be working remotely. And yeah, able to attend any scheduled meetings.
Tina, I think they try to meet every other Tuesday, so twice a month.
Oh, okay. We need to update your website then.
And member Wink, go ahead.
Tina, it's great to see you. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Thank you. Given all you've done in service for the city of Englewood, and its various constituent communities, how will being on planning and zoning benefit you professionally and or personally? Oh, Jackie's hand is up. So
Okay. So I will be brief. I just think, continued learning for me. It's not an area that I'm super familiar with the rules and regulations. So just personal growth on that level. It's not something that I would pursue career-wise. I'm a long-term state employee and intend on staying there. But I like to be a continuous learner. So for me, it would be that level of personal development.
great. Thank you so much, Tina.
You're welcome.
Tina, I think we're at time. Thank you very much for getting through the last 4 questions because we do dock points since you're an unknown face here in the city. So, but next steps, we actually are going to deliberate tonight. In terms of placements, we will make a final decision until the 23rd of this month, though. So expect to hear back from staff after that decision is made. But again, thank you for all your service and thank you very much for looking to continue that service with the city.
And thank you so much for the opportunity to interview. You guys have a great night.
Have a good night. Thank you, Tina.
Bye.
All right, we're moving on to Mr. Matt Collins. Good evening, Mr. Collins.
Good evening. How are you guys doing?
Doing well. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. Mr. Collins, I think you know the ground rules. I remember you from your time on, what was it, the Code Enforcement Advisory Committee.
Yep, that's correct.
So thank you very much for reapplying. And Mr. Collins, the format for tonight is the same as previously, 7 questions. You have 10 minutes to answer the questions. The time does go by fast, so if you're able to keep the answers succinct, it probably would help. And I'm trying to think, and then I think I covered everything. Did I miss anything? If not, are you ready to begin, Mr. Collins?
I am.
All right, Mr. Collins, Old Daniel Sierra, District 1 council member as well as mayor. My question to you is, what motivates you to apply for an Englewood Board or Commission at this time?
Really mainly to give back to the community. Obviously, I was previously on Code Enforcement Advisory Committee. The reason I stepped down from that was just time. At the time, I had other conflicts. And this is kind of an opportunity for me to get back in there and continue to give back and be a more involved part of the community.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Mr. Collins. Mr. Anderson.
Good evening, Mr. Collins. I'm Joe Anderson, City Council member representing District 3. My question for you tonight is, what knowledge, skills, or abilities would you bring to the board or commission you've applied for, which looks like is the Board of Adjustment and Appeals? And in particular, how would you provide a positive benefit to Englewood through service on that board?
Yep. I'd actually also be interested in planning and zoning. I forgot to mention that in my application, I think originally. But I've got a background in reading code, obviously through working on the Code Enforcement Advisory Committee, as well as in a past life, law enforcement. So used to going through state code on that side as well. My current position is in data analytics, so kind of already have that analytical mind that you really need when looking at adjustment and appeals, as well as planning and zoning issues. And previously being on the board as well, so kind of already have an idea how things function in that respect.
Very good, thank you.
Member Noonekamp.
Good evening. Thanks for being here. I'm Chelsea Noonekamp, the council member for District 2. Can you share an experience during which you worked with a group of people that was diverse and maybe they had opposing or even conflicting views or perspectives?
Okay. I mean, the Code Enforcement Advisory Committee is a perfect example of that, but I'll actually choose a previous work one instead. And we recently went through a ERP implementation, a pretty major change in our organization. And we had all different kinds of stakeholders from across the business coming and saying, here's what I want, here's what I want, here's what I need. And part of what I did is kind of help out through some of those requirements. And you do get obviously a very diverse group, very interested specifically in their area. And really the biggest part is listening to what everybody has to say with that compassion and empathy, but then applying that logic and data mindset as you go to make your final decision, but knowing that you're going to always disappoint somebody when a decision's made, making sure you address that with that compassion so that they still feel heard and they still feel like they were an important part of the decision.
Great, thank you.
You're speaking my language, Mr. Collins. Next up is Member Russell.
Good evening, Mr. Collins. It's nice to have you here. So my question for you is, what do you like most about Englewood?
I really enjoy Old Town Englewood personally. I think I'm someone that really likes food and drink, and so just the number of restaurants we have in Old Town, and the potential for growth we have as a city, I think is a really great thing. And obviously, I own a house here, so I'm invested in the city being able to grow and flourish.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.
Good evening, Mr. Collins. I'm Steve Ward. I represent Council District 4. My question for you is, what, if anything, would you like to see improved in Englewood regarding the Board of Adjustment and Appeals? And secondarily, you used an acronym earlier, ERP. I'd like to know what that means.
ERP is Enterprise Requirements Planning. It's essentially like the backbone for a company on how they do everything, and really the tool they're using for that. And then on the things I would like to see improved, really just I think the ease for more businesses to be able to open and kind of grow in the city, as well as for homeowners to be able to improve their property, is just the processes and making things easier for really the city to grow and improve in that way. Because I know at times some of the current processes via things like planning and zoning and adjustment and appeals really give the ability to streamline some of that and create some ease there for the city to improve.
Mr. Woodward.
Okay, good evening, Mr. Collins. Jim Woodward, Consul at Large, and I've got an easy question. Regular attendance and engagement with the board is required. Will you be able to attend the scheduled meetings?
Yep, I will. The reason I actually stepped down when my term was up on code enforcement was because I knew I had previous or other commitments coming up with getting my master's, and now that finished last year, I'm pretty open on the schedule side.
Great, thank you.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Mr. Collins, I'm Cheryl Wink, council member at large. And you've likely said this before, and I likely heard it, but how will your service on CEAC or PNZ, if that be the case, or generally, really, the short answer is best here, but how will your service continued on a board or commission benefit you professionally or personally as an Englewood citizen?
I mean, personally, I'm somebody that likes to learn more just about the community, things around me. So both planning and zoning and adjustment and appeals, I think, give a good opportunity for that, for me to kind of deep dive into another area, as well as really, I think any opportunity I have or anybody has to practice interpersonal skills, practice working in conflict, it's a great personal development opportunity regardless of the situation. So
brilliant. Thank you so much, Matt.
Mr. Collins, I think we have plenty of time. Do you have any questions for us?
None for you. I didn't know if you guys had any others for me. I know I just wanted to make sure to note that the two boards I really am interested in is adjustment appeals and planning and zoning. Really the quasi judicial boards I think have more interest to me just because more of that immediate impact.
Okay. Actually, I didn't see planning and zoning on my copy. Did anybody see that on their copy or no? Did I miss that earlier?
I may have forgotten.
Anyway, I made note of that, Mr. Collins. So
yeah, thank you.
We'll go to Mayor Pro Tem and then Member Anderson.
I think Member Anderson was first, but I'll go ahead. You mentioned process during your interview earlier. Have you been through any of the processes that these particular boards handle, or do you have any shared experience?
I have not been specifically through either of those two processes, just in working with the city with various home improvement projects where I've needed to get approvals, things like that's really what I've done so far.
Thank you.
Thank you, Member Anderson.
I had a follow-up, especially hearing that you're interested in P&Z as well. What P&Z, obviously does code, code helps with code revisions regarding our development code, and then of course does public hearings on specific developments and that kind of thing. What would you hope to see how would you hope to see Englewood change in terms of development while you were on that commission?
Development wise, I think the city's got an opportunity for growth. We look at the surrounding communities in the Denver area, and there's a lot of both business growth as well as residential growth. And I think making sure that we temper the residential growth so that it's still there, because it's obviously needed in any community, but not so much that it kind of takes over like we've seen in some areas and kind of keeps some of that Englewood feel that I know a lot of citizens want, as well as by making things easier for businesses to open up. Because really, at the end of the day, the city's primarily driven off sales tax, and giving that opportunity and for those strong businesses to open up and flourish within the city, I think are some areas that could use some improvement.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Collins.
All right, Mr. Collins, I see no further questions. Mr. Collins, like I stated earlier, we'll be deliberating tonight in terms of placements. We'll make a decision on the 23rd of this month and do expect to hear back from staff once that decision is made. But again, thank you very much for reapplying and re-engaging with the city, and enjoy the rest of your evening.
Perfect. Thank you. You as well.
Thank you, Mr. Collins. Up next, we have Mary Miles Lambert.
There we go. Mills. It's Mills Lambert. Nice to meet you.
Oh, Ms. Mills Lambert, thank you so much. Thank you very much for making tonight. Sorry for the mispronunciation.
No worries.
Mills Lambert, sorry, Mary Mills Lambert, sorry. The format for tonight, we'll be asking you 7 questions. You have 10 minutes to answer those questions. If there is time at the end, you are able to ask members of council any questions that you happen to have. Anything that you want, any clarifications at this point, or can we get started?
Not at all. Sounds good.
All right, Ms. Mills Lambert, my name is Othaniel Sierra. I'm District 1 council member as well as mayor for the city. My question for you is, what motivates you to apply for an Englewood board or commission at this time?
Well, thank you guys so much for the opportunity to speak. I made the switch from education, kindergarten through 12th education, into software engineering a couple of years ago. And when I made that switch, I made a promise to myself that eventually I would move into something that was going to give back to my community and invest in the people that I lived around in the same way that education did. I wanted to make sure that my career felt super stable so that I had the free time and the brain space to really give to something else. And I've sort of reached that point. So this is my first application and I'm really excited to be here.
And we're happy to have you here, Ms. Lambert. Moving on to Member Anderson.
Good evening, Ms. Lambert. I'm Joe Anderson. I am the City Council District 3 representative. My question for you tonight is, what knowledge, skills, or ability would you bring to the boards or commissions that you've applied for, which appear to be Housing Authority or Sustainability Commission? And in particular, how would Englewood benefit from your service on one of those 2 commissions?
So I have a lot of experience with children and adults, family members, people very close to me who have depended upon the Englewood Housing Authority and the Denver Public Housing Authority as well. As we all know, housing here in Colorado is incredibly expensive and hard to come by, whether or not you have a great job in that economic, foundation or not. It's hard for everyone. And so it's really, really important to me, to the people that are close to me, that this is something that is available to everyone. And I would love to have the opportunity to be a part of just learning more about it, how I can be helpful. In coming with that background with education, I have worked with people of so many different ages, so many different backgrounds, and having to sort of explain sometimes very technical speech to folks with different abilities comes in very handy. And so having had that opportunity in my previous life as an educator, I think that those are skills that come in very handy on a board such as this.
Very good. Thank you, Ms. Lambert.
Member Noonkamp.
Hi, Ms. Mills Lambert, excuse me. I'm Chelsea Camp. It's wonderful to meet you. I am your city council person in District 2. Can you share an experience that you've had in your past during which you've worked with a group of people with diverse and sometimes opposing views and perspectives?
Absolutely. I've sat in countless IEP meetings for students who have individualized education plans. I'm also a software engineer these days. And so sitting in Scrum meetings where you've got customers, delivery managers, as well as the engineers all coming from a different perspective. And in the case of, with students, just different backgrounds and education needs and perspectives, you have to listen to everybody. You have to make sure that everybody feels heard and that you've got enough diversity at the table to make an informed decision to meet everybody's needs. So that's often not easy, but it's the right route to take. And I have a lot of experience in both areas. So I would love to offer that.
Great. Thank you so much.
Member Russell.
Good evening, Ms. Mills Lambert. And it's very nice to have you here this evening. My question for you is, what is it that you like most about Englewood?
I forget the name of the first person who interviewed here, but she said it's a gem, and I can't agree more. This area is so interesting. It's got so many great little pockets of different restaurants. The neighborhoods are so beautiful. You see so many differently abled people. It's a real community, and it has so much opportunity to grow. And we love it. We bought a house here obviously 2 years ago and have zero intention of leaving. And I just really love the people, I think, that make the area. It's lovely.
Absolutely. It's always great to hear from people that are relatively new to the city and
Mhm.
just your excitement and enthusiasm. It's great to have you here.
Yeah, thanks.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Good evening. I'm Steve Ward. I represent Council District 4. My question for you tonight is what, if anything, would you like to see improved about the board that you applied for?
I'm not sure that I can really answer that well. I don't know that I know all the ins and outs of what you all do in order to really say what I like or don't like or should, be improved. What I will say is that I think that there is always room for improvement in something like housing in any city. And so I would just love to be at the table to see what you all do behind the scenes and hear the discussions that go on in to making the city better,
Thank you.
Member Woodward.
Good evening. My name is Jim Woodward, Consul at Large. And my question is, regular attendance and engagement with the board is required. Will you be able to attend the scheduled meetings?
Oh, yep. My evenings are wide open. I'm here.
Okay.
Member Wink.
I
sorry.
think, actually, I think that the Housing Authority is late afternoon, isn't it, Joe?
Is it? I'm sorry. Well, I'm an engineer and my days are pretty flexible, so that is doable.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for clarifying, Member Woodward. Member Wink.
Thank you. Welcome, Mary.
Thank you.
I'm one of the council members at large, and I would like to know how your service on a board and or commission will benefit you personally or professionally as a citizen of Englewood.
I don't see how it can't. I mean, just learning more about the area that you're living in gives you insight into the people that you live next to, the folks that you need help from, that they need help from you, how you can be just a better citizen all around. And then also the skills that go into city planning and all of the intricacies therein are helpful regardless of what line of business you're in. There's no way that there isn't learning that can happen in both the personal and professional scope.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Ms. Mills Lambert, we do have some additional time. Do you have any questions for us?
I don't. This is my first go round and I'm not nearly as practiced as everybody else, but I have to say this has been wonderful. I love hearing everyone else's comments and I appreciate y'all taking the time to listen to me.
Well, you did fantastic. Thank you very much for this. I also got a chuckle out of your application in terms of what you've done for the students, teachers, and parents. So appreciate all of that.
Yeah.
Any questions for members of council? Anything further?
No, not really.
Perfect. Well, Ms. Mills Lambert, we'll go ahead and deliberate tonight. We'll make a decision on the 23rd of this month and you'll hear from staff on that decision. But thank you very much for applying.
Thank you all so much. Have a good one.
Have a good evening. All right, we're moving on to Madison Andrews. Oh, there we are. Hello, Ms. Andrews.
Can you guys
hear me okay?
Yeah,
we can hear you.
Guys.
We just keep cutting over each other there, but good evening. Welcome to tonight, and thank you very much for interviewing. My name is Othaniel Sierra. I'm District 1 council member as well as mayor for the city. We'll be asking you 7 questions tonight. You'll have 10 minutes to answer those questions. At the 9-minute mark, Jackie will raise her hand to let you know you have 1 minute remaining. And that time does go fast. So if you're able to keep your answers succinct, we haven't had too much trouble tonight, but just wanted to let you know. Are you ready to begin, Ms. Andrews?
Yeah, I'm ready if you guys are.
Ms. Andrews, my question for you is what motivates you to apply for an Englewood Board or Commission at this time?
Yeah, I think for me, I have had a couple of friends who've been on commissions, and I know Councilwoman Noonenkamp pretty well. And in some of our discussions on why we love Englewood and what we would want to see improved, and the vision, I think, especially speaking with Chelsea, just of the vision for the future of Englewood. I really love Englewood and I want to be a part of that. I think for me, it's really important. This is someplace I want to be for a long time, and I care about the future of it. And so I want to be involved with the intricacies of making sure that we are setting up Englewood to be successful in the future. So I love Englewood. My grandparents have lived in Englewood for 50 years. My mom grew up here, and I just moved here about a year-ish ago. And so really love Englewood and really want to be involved where I live.
Well, thank you for that and welcome. Member Anderson.
Good evening, Ms. Andrews. I'm Joe Anderson, City Council member representing District 3. My question for you tonight is, what knowledge, skills, or abilities do you bring to the boards or commissions you've applied for, which appear to be Englewood Housing Authority and P&Z? And how would Englewood benefit through your service on one of those commissions?
Yeah, I think my job history really lends itself well. Right now, I work for an investment firm as a systems analyst. And a lot of that is very much in the details of things like audit and making sure that we're in compliance with federal and national and state legislation. And so I think with both of the boards I've applied for, there's a balance of both wanting to do what's best and figuring out the best plans, but then also making sure that you're in legal, you're in compliance with all of the legal legislation that's out there. And so kind of balancing that with my current role, in which I do a lot of audit compliance and making sure that whether it's where we're storing files or whether it's processes to make sure that we're in compliance. And then I've also worked in the real estate industry for about 5 years prior to that, and have just a lot of deep understanding of how important things like zoning and housing authority is, and to making housing both affordable for across the board for everyone, as well as how it affects the development of a city, and how important it is to be thoughtful and thorough in deciding how you're going to zone a city, and how that impacts neighborhoods and just the feel of Englewood. And so I think for me, having that balance, as well as having just some of the history here of loving Englewood, and I've seen it change over the past 30 years, just loving the pieces of Englewood that I think are so unique and different than other cities around us, and also wanting the best foot forward. I think all of the traits I bring would really lend itself to the two councils that I've applied for.
Very good. Thank you, Ms. Andrews.
Member Noonkamp.
Ms. Andrews, good to see you. Thanks for being here. Can you share with us an experience from your past during which you've worked with a group of people with diverse and sometimes opposing views or perspectives?
Yeah, absolutely. So for about 4 years, I lived up in Washington, and I worked for the state of Washington, implementing a massive, huge new software across all of the different colleges, community colleges, and technical colleges. And for a lot of the people that I worked with, they had done their jobs in the system for 40 years or 50 years at that point. And so I think for me, it was a lot of how do I come in and work alongside people to create an end product that's going to best serve them, as well as the low income students and the high school students that we were serving at that point. And had a lot of people who, again, they'd done their jobs the same way for a long time. And so how do you leverage their knowledge while also understanding that things have to change, and we can't do things the same way we did them in 1981. That's just not conducive in the 21st century. And also bringing together different groups. We did a lot of different process mapping as well as process improvements, and bringing groups from across the state to come together to create the best end goal, where people came from very different backgrounds, whether that was, working with people in Seattle and then working with people way out on the coast or in very underdeveloped communities, and understanding that the goals were going to have to be different, and the support we needed to provide was going to have to be different in that. And so definitely really challenging, and a lot of very humbling for me, I think, but also a really beautiful experience that I got to understand how do you find commonalities with people, and how do you create those connections and that shared trust so that you can get to the best end product.
That's great. Thanks so much.
Member Russell.
Good evening, Ms. Andrews. It's very nice to have you here this evening. My name is Rita Russell. I'm a council member at large. And my question for you is, what do you like most about Englewood?
Yeah, I I think what I love most about Englewood is the people. I love the diversity of Englewood. I love that some of my neighbors have been in this neighborhood for 40 years, or people like my grandparents who've been in Englewood since the 60s and have raised their families here. I was just chatting the other day with one of my neighbors down the street, and he was telling me about, you know what I mean? Oh, that used to be a chicken coop over there, and now it's, you know, a new townhome development. I love that everyone in Englewood doesn't look like me, hasn't had the same life experiences as I have. And I think there's a sense of community that you really miss in a lot of other places because people are so rooted here. I also love the diversity of businesses. I love the way Englewood really champions its small businesses and really encourages. And I think you see that in some of the businesses that have been here for 40 years and also all of the really incredible new restaurants and businesses that have started. So I think it was a combination. I remember when I was looking at houses with my real estate agent, he kept trying to point me down to Littleton. And I was like, no, I want to be in Englewood. I love Englewood, and I love its quirkiness and that it's a little bit different than a lot of the areas around us, but that there is such a deep rooted sense of community here.
Absolutely. Thanks. It's very nice to have you. I'm glad you decided to live here.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Good evening, Ms. Andrews. My name is Steve Ward. I represent Council District 4. And my question for you is, what, if anything, would you like to see improved about the boards or commissions that you applied for?
Yeah, I think for me, I would agree with the previous interviewee of, I think it's hard to necessarily get to the details, but I think long-term in terms of just when you look at the Housing Authority as well as the Planning and Zoning Committee, it really is about how do we build Englewood best in the future. It's a lot of future understanding of, again, how do you develop zoning plans so that they're not destroying the character of a neighborhood and also providing enough housing so that there is enough housing in the Englewood Fork to meet demand. And so I think for me, I would love to see that continuation of creating the best Englewood that we can for a diverse populace, not just for people who come in and who have really, really bougie jobs and can afford to drop $800,000, $900,000 on a house. How do you create housing to keep Englewood diverse, both economically and socially? So yeah, I think that would probably be my answer.
Thank you, Member Woodward.
Thank you. My question tonight is regular attendance and engagement with the board is required. Will you be able to attend the scheduled meetings?
Yeah, I don't really have any concerns about that. I work a pretty flexible schedule, and I really believe in carving out the time for the things that are important to you. And this would be a priority to me to carve out that time to make sure that I could regularly be there and be prepared for them.
Great, thank you.
Member Wink.
Thank you. Madison Andrews, welcome. I'm Cheryl Wink, council member at large. How will your service on a board and or commission in Englewood benefit you as an Englewood citizen, either professionally or personally?
Yeah, I think for me, it's personal. I really think it's important when, again, I think about my sweet grandparents who've been here for 40 years and who've lived in the same 800 square foot house and raised a family there, and wanting to keep the Englewood neighborhoods, again, balancing that, wanting to keep the character and the quirkiness of Englewood and wanting to also create housing so that other people can come in. So I think for me, it would be about that connectedness as well as getting to meet people who I wouldn't necessarily and normally meet in my day-to-day life. I think obviously you guys have citizens as large, as well as just the makeup of the boards are just not necessarily people that I would interact with. And so getting to make those connections and work together towards a common goal, I think is really important for me, and feeling like I'm a part of Englewood. So yeah, great question.
Thank you very much.
Ms. Andrews, I'll ask a question before I let you ask us questions, but I see that you put up until 7 o'clock in terms of your availability. Some of those boards can go later, especially planning and zoning. I think the Englewood Housing Authority may start on the early side of that, but would you be able to make those times if they did go over past 7?
Yeah, no, I would be able to make that happen.
Okay, perfect. And then Ms. Andrews, we have a few minutes. Any questions for us?
I don't think so. I really appreciate you guys' time and creating this space to kind of get to know all of us better. And I look forward to hearing from you guys.
Perfect, Ms. Andrews. Well, we thank you very much for applying. We'll deliberate tonight. We'll make a decision on the 23rd, and then you'll hear from staff after that point, which board or commission you may be on. But again, thank you very much for your time tonight, and thank you very much for applying.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you guys.
Have a good night.
You guys as well.
All right, we're moving pretty good through these.
I don't see Rachel on yet. I'm going to give her a call real quick. I did try to email her.
And is the last name pronounced Beaker?
Beaker? Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. I will try her real quick. And if not, I'll try to see if Andy can get on a little bit sooner.
Sounds good. Got a lot of people in software talking my language. Talking my language and a lot of interest in EHA.
Yeah, this is encouraging because there's not often that many applying for housing authority.
Yeah.
It's the hidden gem, I guess, but now people are discovering the wonders of housing authority and applying.
Joe, I think it's a testament to you. You're sitting on that board, right?
Yeah, no.
It's also 2 residents who just bought houses in the last 24 months in our community. They might have something to say.
Those both may be true. So.
I think one of the things possibly that people aren't understanding is that Englewood Housing Authority is mainly with multi-tenant type facilities. And I think they have and you'd know better, Joe, but a very, very small number of single family.
Yeah, it's not a huge number, but they have, purchased and are building additional like duplexes and multiplex units, both in Englewood and Sheridan. So that's definitely a part of it.
I cannot get a hold of Rachel. Andy is going to jump on. So if you want to start with Andy,
yep.
And then if we get Rachel sometime tonight, we can slot her in.
Let me get to that point. But yeah, that works. I'll get to my sheet as well, Andy. Who was able to answer the question on urban renewal? We haven't met, that board hasn't met in a while, have they?
Which board again? I'm sorry.
Urban renewal
comes up once a year. The meeting is coming up this month.
Oh, okay. There we go. All right. I think I saw Andy jump on.
Yes. Hi, everyone.
Hello, Andy. How do you pronounce your last name? Is Savendra?
It's Saavedra. Yeah.
Saavedra. Good evening. Andy, thank you very much for joining tonight. My name is both Daniel Sayre. I'm the City Council District 1 member as well as mayor for the city. Tonight, we're going to be asking you 7 questions. You have 10 minutes to answer those questions. At the 9-minute mark, Jackie's going to raise the hand to let you know that you have 1 minute remaining. If we do have any time remaining, you could ask members of council any questions, and we may ask some of you as well. Anything before we get started?
No, I think that's everything. Yeah.
All right, Mr. Saavedra, thank you very much for your time tonight. My question for you is, what motivates you to apply for an Englewood Board or Commission at this time?
Yeah, so for me, I've been living in Englewood for the last 2 years now, and what sparked my interest was the City of Englewood magazines that come, I believe it's quarterly. I found myself reading them from beginning to end, and have found myself, signing up for a lot of the city things that are happening, to follow some of the projects that are happening. And so it kind of just extends from like the background that I have. Went to school back at Arizona State University, got my degree in tourism development and management, kind of dove off and went towards like the event management route. And so I loved the opportunity to finally, explore what I went to school for and see how I can help the city.
Perfect, thank you. Member Anderson.
Good evening, Mr. Saavedra. My question for you tonight, I'm Joe Anderson, District 3 representative. My question for you is, what knowledge, skills, or ability would you bring to the commissions you've applied for, which are the Transportation Authority and the Urban Renewal Authority. And in particular, how would you provide a positive benefit to Englewood through your service on one of those commissions?
Yeah, great question. So I recently got my PMP, so project management certification last year. In addition to that, I also got my CSM, so Scrum Masters. I've also, so my background is in IT. I currently work in the IT space, and I consider myself more of the organized person, mainly because of the project management background and everything. But I also based a lot of the experience back when I was doing the event world and the event industry. You have to be very detail oriented, and so that's definitely one of the skill sets that I can highlight. I've heard a lot of great feedback from people that I've worked with in the past. I love organization, and I love getting into like project management tools and building things like that. So when we're thinking about citywide projects, if there are tools that the committee is using or something like that, maybe that's an area where I can also step in and provide support in those spaces. I also used to manage our Zoom systems at one of the local companies here, and did a lot of the troubleshooting, help desk support, onboarding, and things of that nature. So familiar with like many things in the tech space.
Very good, thank you.
Member Newton-Camp.
Thanks so much for being with us tonight. I'm Chelsea Newton-Camp, the Council District 2 representative. So I'm your council person. It's nice to meet you. Thanks for being here. Can you share with us an experience from your past during which you worked with a group of people with diverse and sometimes opposing views or perspectives?
Yeah, I would say that that's almost like my day-to-day life. So in the role that I'm currently working at with my current employer, and also the position that I had prior to this company, I worked in a very cross-functional cohort. So in my role as an IT project manager, I worked with people in the legal team, finance, security, accounting, InfoSec, and data privacy to review software vendor contracts. And when you have a lot of cross-functional teams trying to work together, you can definitely have people disagreeing with one another, people not prioritizing things over the other. And so for me, the approach that I've always gone with, right, it's we're all here to support the business and make sure that it's successful. And so I always tend to take the approach of being more of a servant leader, and that's the way that I would approach things as a project manager as well, is just making sure that I'm there to help people, provide the best that they can, and I like to avoid drama the best that I can, and so I like to do that with the people that I'm working with too. If there are issues that we're running into, it's more of like asking the questions and to understand like what's the issue and how can we step in and help each other out to kind of get past that point.
Great, thanks so much.
Thank you, Member Russell.
Good evening, Mr. Saavedra. It's nice to have you here this evening. My question for you is, what do you like most about Englewood?
Yeah, great question. So what I like about Englewood is it feels like it's an up and coming city. There's a lot of potential for it to become another great example of a suburb of Denver with just in the time that I've been here in the Denver area. So I've been here for 4 years now. It seems I've seen like the changes that have been happening throughout the on Broadway, and like the additional like additions that we've had with the artwork and things like that. So, and I mean, living in the city, in the part of town that I'm at near the hospital, I have also seen the construction that's been happening near the, to try to get more people in the areas. So no, I'm excited about the changes that the city is interested in doing. Again, with the projects that I've been following around like the Walmart area and all the changes that are bringing on, I think it's going to bring in a lot of positive change and more business in this area. So that's really what's been exciting me about it.
Great. It's great to have you here. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Good evening, I'm Steve Ward. I represent Council District 4, and my question for you is, what, if anything, would you like to see improved about the boards or commissions that you applied for?
Well, I guess I can use this this interview process as an example. I did feel like there was not enough information, and maybe that was also on me to kind of reach out and ask what additional questions there are, just to kind of prepare. I know when I received the notification for positions that were open, I was very interested in a few, and so when I received this interview, I was really curious on like which one exactly I would be interviewed on, so that way I could prepare in advance. I am someone that likes to get ahead of things and make sure that I'm providing the best that I can when presenting myself.
That's helpful feedback. Thank you.
Thank you. Member Woodward.
Good evening. My name is Jim Woodward. I'm council member at large. My question for you is regular attendance and engagement with the board is required. Will you be able to attend the scheduled meetings?
Yeah, so going back to my the previous response, depending on which board or committee I am being considered for, I know when I was looking at the different selections, I did try to go off of the ones that I felt would I would be able to attend. I have a few travel plans around March and April, so if I was to miss anything, I would say max it'd probably be 1 to 2. But given nowadays, if these are remote sessions, I would most likely be able to attend. So here's that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Now you wouldn't have to worry about missing meetings. Everyone does it. Everybody has vacations. Definitely take it. So don't worry about that. Member Wink.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mayor. I'm Cheryl Wink, Andy Saavedra, and I'm a council. Hello, good to see you. I'm a council member at large. So how will your service on the board or commission to which we may appoint you, how will it benefit you as an Englewood citizen, either professionally or personally?
Yeah, I love this question too. So for me personally, I feel like it would give me more opportunities to be just involved with the city in general, or with maybe explore more of other parts that I've been working to improve on. Public speaking has been one that I've always tried to make a continuous effort to improve in. I want to continue to move up in the career ladder and advancing in positions, and so that's definitely a space of where I like to continue to grow. In terms of how I think it could benefit me as an Englewood citizen, I think for me, learning more about the city can also help me get more engaged. I'm not saying that I know a lot of people within the city, but I'd like to learn more about politics, just things that the cities are working with, to provide support for its citizens, so that way I can share that knowledge with my family members, friends that I know, and really, just drive more engagement in that sense.
Great, thank you, Andy.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Saavedra, I think we are just about at time. So tonight we are going to deliberate and try to make placement tonight. We won't officially vote until the 23rd, and then you should hear from staff at that point. I appreciate the time tonight. You forced us to try to roll our R's. Some of us are a little bit more successful at it than others. So, but thank you very much again for your time tonight, and look forward to speaking to you soon.
Of course, thank you all, and I appreciate you giving the try to say the last thing. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Have a great evening. Yep. Bye.
All right, we're up next to Mr. Garrett Brooks, I believe. So, I think that was next. Yep. Hello, Mr. Brooks. Can you hear us?
I can. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Perfect.
Great.
Thank you very much for making time for us tonight.
I appreciate it.
Mr. Brooks, my name is Othaniel Sierra. I'm District 1 council member as well as mayor for the city. Tonight, we're going to be asking you 7 questions. You have 10 minutes to answer those questions. The time moves fast, so if you're able to answer the questions succinctly, it will probably help us get through the time. If there is time remaining, you can ask us questions as well, and we may have some follow-up questions for you at that point. Anything before we get started?
No, this is great. Rapid fire. Let's do it.
There we go. All right, Mr. Brooks, what motivates you to apply for an Englewood Board or Commission at this time?
You know, I've lived in Englewood for 10 years now. District 2, I absolutely love the city, love the community, and you know, I want to get involved, do my part to give back and serve. Actually, most of the time that I've lived here in the city, my job's kept me traveling, so I wasn't able to make any type of commitments like this. I now work for myself. I'm established. I set my own schedule, and so, you know, I'm excited to be able to get involved here and do my part to give back to the city that I love so much.
Perfect. We appreciate that. Thank you very much, Mr. Brooks. Member Anderson.
Good evening, Mr. Brooks. I'm Joe Anderson, represent District 3 on City Council. My question for you tonight, what knowledge, skills, or abilities would you bring to the commissions that you've applied for, which it looks like are the Firefighters Pension Board and the Non-Emergency Employee Retirement Board? And in particular, how would you provide a positive benefit to Englewood through your service on one of those boards?
Sure. And I also added in there the Police Pension Board as well. Reason that I selected those commissions, those boards to be a part of, is because my entire background, my career has been in the financial services industry. So I've worked for large investment companies, some smaller ones. I now own my own as a registered investment advisor here in the state of Colorado. I am a chartered financial analyst, and so, you know, I think that it appeals to me. One, it's you know, through my career, I've kind of amassed all of this knowledge and skills that typically very much are applied in a for-profit way. And I think that it would be nice to be able to contribute, like I said, back to the city. And it's actually particularly, it's particularly appealing to be able to give back specifically to those who, you know, chose to serve the city as their career, and do my part to ensure that, you know, their obligations are fulfilled.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Brooks.
Thank you. Member Noonekamp.
Good evening. I'm Chelsea Noonekamp. I'm your city councilwoman in District 2 here in Englewood. Thanks for being here tonight.
Yes.
Can you describe an experience from your past during which you worked with a group of people with diverse and maybe opposing views or perspectives?
I have through my professional career done that quite a bit. I mean, most of my career I served as a representative of, you know, large investment managers, and so it meant that I was meeting with clients who had varying viewpoints, varying backgrounds, and, you know, sometimes things were going very well, but also sometimes we were having very tough discussions. And so, you know, I learned how to, you know, very much how to build those soft skills, read the room, and, you know, make sure that everyone is being heard, listening to everyone, and, you know, and really accommodating to the best that I can.
Great. Thanks so much.
Member Russell.
Good evening, Mr. Brooks. It's great to have you here. My name is Rita Russell. I am a council member at large, and I actually happen to be the council liaison to the NERP board and have served on the other boards. And I can tell you that your skill set is very much needed on those boards. So thank you for applying. My question for you is, what do you like most about Englewood?
Oh, wow. That's a great question. I'd have to say it's the people. I mean, I love it here. You know, it's we have a fun little community here, as everyone, I'm sure you all know and agree with me, but, you know, different people, everybody's so friendly, and you know, it's a great, there's no other word to describe it than just a great community. And so it's the people for sure.
That is great. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.
Good evening, I'm Steve Ward. I represent Council District 4. And my question for you tonight, keeping in mind that we have limited time here, is what, if anything, would you like to see improved about the boards or commissions that you applied for?
Nothing. I can't, other than I should be on them.
Good enough. Thank you.
There aren't any major problems that I know of, so that's a good thing. Let's hold the boat steady.
Member Woodward, you're up next.
Good evening. My name is Jim Woodward, council member at large. My question for you is regular attendance and engagement with the board commission is required. Would you be able to attend the scheduled meetings?
Absolutely. And I appreciate you asking the question. Like I said early on, it was actually the ability to commit due to being, in flight literally all of the time for my job, which, held me back. And now, like I said, I own my own business. It's established and I make my own schedule. And so, yes, I can absolutely attend all meetings that I need to.
Great. Question.
Sure.
Another question right added on to that is, Member Russell had mentioned the NERP board or non-emergency retirement pension board. Is that something you would also consider looking at? 2 of them?
Yes, I actually included 3. So police, fire, and non-emergency. I would love to serve on all 3. I looked at the schedule. It looked like I could very much accommodate.
Great, very good. Thank you.
Thanks you.
For asking the question, Member Woodward. Member Wink.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Garrett Brooks, good evening. I'm a council member at large, and I would like to know how your service on whatever boards and or commissions we may appoint you to benefit you as an Englewood citizen, either professionally or personally.
I think I think in terms of professionally, it's already very much in line with with what I do. So I don't know that I would really gain anything professionally from the appointments. Like I said, I'm more interested in serving, purely giving back. I would say personally, it would be a deeper connection and the ability to meet more people. I could see definitely making some friends and some colleagues along the way, and I think that would definitely benefit me.
Yeah, I would concur. Thank you so much for applying.
Sure. Thank you all for having me.
Mr. Brooks, we have some time available. Do you have any questions for us?
I think, the major question was, so all 3 of those boards, are there currently openings? I know sometimes it, there might be people who are re-serving or re-signing up, so to speak. And I'm curious if there actually are openings in all 3 of them.
Does Mayor Pro Tem, do you have the answer?
Well, the process on this is a little more complicated based on the fact that we're evaluating some changes to those boards at the present time.
Okay.
So there could be some mergers taking place in the near future. But I believe, if I looked correctly, there are on all of them.
Okay. Fantastic. And then in terms of, I guess, a follow on to that, what does the process look like from here? Any interim steps, and I guess when would you make a final decision and all of that good stuff?
Yeah, I can take that, Mr. Brooks. So tonight we will deliberate on placement. So we will make not necessarily a final decision. We won't vote on it until the 23rd, but tonight we will have that discussion. We'll vote on the 23rd. At that point, after we've voted, then you'll hear from a member of staff sometime during that week of the 23rd. And then your appointments will begin in the month of February.
Perfect. That sounds great. I don't have any other questions. I hope you all consider me, and like I said, I really would like to be a part of this. And so thanks for having me. Thanks for the time, the great questions. I really enjoyed this, and I hope to be working with you all more closely.
Yeah, you did a fantastic job, Mr. Brooks. Thank you very much for your time tonight, and enjoy your evening.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you.
Bye.
Jackie, was that you? Did you have something?
I was just going to say there's openings for all those boards. There are no reappointments. And I'm going to switch over to Kathleen Bailey is on the phone, so she will not have her camera on. So I'm going to see if she's ready to go.
Okay, sounds great. What's my questions?
We practice, so let's see if it works.
Miss Bailey, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Perfect. Ms. Bailey, I think we are ready to begin. I don't think that you need an introduction from me, Ms. Bailey, but Nathaniel Sierra, Mayor, as well as District 1 Council Member. Ms. Bailey, you might be familiar with the process, but tonight we're going to be asking you 7 questions. You have 10 minutes to answer those questions. That time does go by fast, so if you're able to answer succinctly, it'll help us get through all 7 questions, but it's not necessary to finish those. At 1 minute, we'll have to figure it out, but I'll probably jump in and let you know that Jackie raised her hand. And then if there is any time remaining, you are free to ask this council any questions. Are you ready to begin, Ms. Bailey?
Yes, I am.
Perfect. So, Ms. Bailey, what motivates you to apply for an Englewood Board or Commission at this time?
Regarding the Sustainability Commission, I've been very excited about what I see and hear coming from that Sustainability Commission. Their energy focus is on enhancing community well-being through sustainable practices. I may not always agree with every program they promote, but the heart and soul of that commission, I believe, will lead to good things for our citizens, and I hope to be a small part of that effort. Regarding the Water and Sewer Board, environmental health and safety issues and infrastructure health and safety issues have long been a concern of mine regarding both water and sewer. But with Director Rye and 3 council members on the board, I was not confident that critical citizen voices would have a place on that board. But when not a single lead pipe has been replaced or a single dead-end pipe eliminated, city leaders focus their attention on bringing forward consideration of handing over our citizen tax built, developed, and maintained Englewood Littleton sewer plant to a semi-public private entity, most likely South Platte Renew. I was startled and alarmed. I know I will be just one voice, one vote, but I hope you will allow me to join the 7 dedicated citizen members already on that board to add my voice to the pool of voices heard on the Water and Sewer Board.
Thank you, Ms. Bailey. Just an FYI, you cut out a little bit towards the middle there, but you finished strong. So just an FYI, just in case that happens again. Member Anderson.
Good evening, Ms. Bailey. Councilmember Anderson here. My question for you tonight is, what knowledge, skills, or ability would you bring to the Sustainability Commission or the Water and Sewer Board? In particular, how would Englewood benefit in a positive way from your service on one of those boards?
I believe my degree in economics, my years as a statistician, my experience as a classroom teacher, my service to citizens, and my career with Arapahoe County Department of Human Services, my lifelong concern for human health risks posed by environmental contamination, and my dedication to the health and well-being of our Englewood citizens, I believe reflect skills and abilities I will use on behalf of Englewood citizens in my participation and support of both of these boards and commissions.
Thank you, Ms. Bailey.
Member Noonencamp.
Hello, Ms. Bailey. This is Chelsea Noonencamp. Can you describe an experience in the past during which you worked with a group of people with diverse and sometimes opposing views and perspectives, and how you handled that situation?
This is a question I have been asked and answered with real-time examples during my working years. Unfortunately, none of which I can recall in the present. However, in general, in group dynamics, when charged with working together to resolve an issue or even choose a priority to work on first, every member's ideas need to be heard by the group and taken into consideration. And as a group, they work to select the best ideas to resolve an issue or to identify the priority to work on first.
Thank you.
Member Russell.
Good evening, Ms. Bailey. Rita Russell here. I'm so glad that you applied for boards and commissions. And my question for you is, what do you like most about Englewood?
Our working class citizens, our working class neighborhoods. They built this city, including our parks. They are the heart and soul of our city.
Great, thank you so much.
Mayor Pro Tem, you're next.
Good evening, Ms. Bailey. It's Steve Ward, representing District 4. My question for you is, what would you like to see improved in Englewood regarding the boards or commissions that you applied for?
I simply want the primary voice heard out of any of our boards and commissions to always be the citizens' voices, not the city leaders' voices.
Member Woodward, you're next.
Good evening, Ms. Bailey. Regular attendance and engagement with the board is required. Will you be able to attend the scheduled meetings?
Yes, unless the city has closed due to a snowstorm, I will attend. The two boards and commissions I selected are on the same night, one at 5, one at 6:30. I will be attending the Sustainability Commission in person, and I would ask to be allowed to attend the Water Sewer Board in person in the Pikes Peak room, and would wear a mask if that would make my attendance in person allowable.
Thank you, Member
Thank
Woodward.
you.
Member Wink.
Good evening, Kathleen Bailey. Thank you
Hi.
for applying to a board and or commission. Good to talk to you this evening. So how will your service on the board or commission to which you may be appointed benefit you as an Englewood citizen, either personally or professionally?
One of the many tenets of civic duty is community involvement as a means to contribute to the well-being of the community. I care about the health and well-being of my fellow citizens, and to be given this opportunity for this civic engagement would be of great personal value to me.
Thank you so very much.
Ms.
You're
Bailey,
welcome.
I think we have some time available. Do you have any questions for us?
No, I do not, but thank you for asking.
Thank you, Ms. Bailey. I don't see any questions from members of council. Ms. Bailey, not sure if you heard earlier, but we will be deliberating tonight placements on boards. We'll be doing that tonight on the 23rd is when we officially vote. After the vote of the 23rd, you should hear from members of city staff on placement of the board. So, I thank you for applying and thank you very much for your time tonight. Ms. Bailey, I hope you have a good evening. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I have one question. That's okay. I realized I had one question. I did hear a part at the end of the last interview, and you guys were describing to that individual, an excellent applicant, obviously, but that some of the boards might be blended or something like that, and there may be changes. When will we be advised of those changes?
Mayor Pro Tem, do you happen to have any timeline on that?
I think the city attorney's office is working on it right now. So I know that we will conduct a study session before we approve anything or anything comes to council. I would expect to see it come forward in a study session, but I don't have a timeline on it.
Okay, excellent. I understand. Thank you for giving me that moment.
Sure, Ms. Bailey, 1 second. I remember Russell has a question.
Thank you. I actually just had a comment. I think not only does council have to decide this, I think it has to go before the boards too for weigh-in on this. At least that has been the suggestion. So.
Well, that makes sense to me because it directly impacts the boards.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you, Member
You're
Russell.
welcome.
And Ms. Bailey, with no other questions, again, thank you very much for your time tonight, and we'll be in touch soon.
Very good. Thank you.
Have a good evening. All right, everyone, I think we have a break here now.
Mayor,
Yes.
the break wasn't till 7:20, but I moved up Gina if she's ready to go.
Oh, is Gina ready for us?
And then we can do a break after her.
Okay, that works for me. I'm fine. I could go another 10 minutes.
Okay.
Gina, are you able to hear us?
I am. Hello.
Hello. How you doing, Gina?
Great. How are you?
I just realized I've never seen your last name, so.
There you go. It's pronounced Oberding.
Oberding. Well, Miss Oberding, this is the last time I'm going to be formal to you, but thank you very much for making time for us tonight and for jumping on a little bit early. Obviously, I'm Nathaniel Sierra, District 1 council member as well as mayor for the city. Tonight, we're going to be asking you 7 questions. You'll have 10 minutes to answer all 7 questions. If you're able, that time moves fast, so if you're able to keep your answers pretty succinct, it'll help us get through the 7 questions. If there's any remaining time, you are able to ask us any further clarification or anything else. So are you ready to begin?
Yes.
So my question for you is, what motivates you to apply for an Englewood board or commission at this time?
In the past, I've served on several different types of boards, including a couple nonprofit boards, and I actually had an opportunity to serve for 1 year on the Craig Hospital Board. And I had decided that once those terms ended, that I would take an opportunity to serve an Englewood board if I could. So this timing came up perfect. I have not been on a board since June. That last, my last commitment ended in June. And so now is a great time for me to finally commit to what I've been wanting to do, which is to serve on a board at the City of Englewood.
Thank you very much, Ms. Olberding. Up next is Member Anderson.
Good evening, Mr. Olberding. My name is Joe Anderson. I represent District 3 on City Council. My question for you tonight is, what knowledge, skills, or abilities would you bring to the commissions you've applied for, which looks like is the Urban Renewal Authority or the Englewood Housing Authority? And in particular, how would Englewood benefit in a positive way from your service on one of those boards?
Thank you. I would be honored to serve on one of those boards. So I'm open to that, whichever's I'm chosen for. I feel like I have really gained a better understanding of a more broad perspective of an organization and thinking things a little bit more strategically than maybe I did in the past. My current role at the University of Colorado requires me to both think strategically and on a day-to-day basis. And so serving on the City of Englewood, I think I would bring that perspective of both maybe a strategic lens and something on, maybe the day-to-day, or as a citizen of the City of Englewood, that's what I know. I know the day-to-day, how I interact with the city, but I have really learned to think more strategically and really think about what would benefit, the organization as a whole. I don't know if that's all your questions or if I missed something in there. I might have missed something in there.
That was a helpful answer. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Member Noonekamp.
Ms. Olberding, it's wonderful to see you. Thank you so much for applying to be on a board and commission. Can you share with us an experience in your past where you worked with a group of people with diverse and sometimes opposing views or perspectives?
That could be described as my role all the time, really. I work in substance misuse prevention, and we do work with a lot of different perspectives, quite a bit. People that may have a similar perspective as we do, or something starkly different. And so I think on a regular basis, I take the lens of asking questions for clarity so that I can understand someone's perspective or opinion, what experience that he or she or they have that may influence their opinion of something, or where they're coming from. So my perspective is generally I try to, in those types of situations, listen for understanding, and then maybe just asking some clarifying questions, because I don't want to assume that I know where he or she or they are coming from. So that's the perspective I try to take all the time. And then I try to think of some action steps to get us moving forward. So I try to think of, or at least problem solve with someone else, what ideas he or she or they may have about, problem solving. If we can't come to an agreement, let's find some common ground so that we can move forward.
That's wonderful. Thanks so much.
Member Russell, you're next.
Good evening, Ms. Olberding. It's very nice to have you here. Very nice to meet you. My question for you is, what is it that you like most about Englewood?
I just went onto the website and I watched the video. I love Englewood. And it's funny because all the responses in that video are basically the responses I would give. I love the people. I love my neighbors. I love the businesses. I love the parks. I love meeting the dogs at the parks. I love being an informal snow buddy to my neighbor, Bob. I love the opportunities I have to participate in community events such as the South Platte River Cleanup. I really recently enjoyed the city seasonal event down at Civic Center. So my list probably is endless. But those would be my, the top 10, the top 12. I don't know how many I listed. I really do. I love Englewood.
I can tell. It's great when you ask that question to see smiles on people's face. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
You left out the library, so we'll have to talk about that. But next up,
How dare I? I just
I
got my 2
know.
books today. Oh, the library.
Mayor Pro Tem, you're up.
Good evening. I'm Steve Ward. I represent Council District 4. And my question for you tonight is what, if anything, would you like to see improved about the boards or commissions that you applied for?
Mr. Ward, I'm not sure I have a good answer to that. I don't know that I know enough about those boards and commissions, in particular about maybe their current activities or current things they're working on, to know what I would change. I would like the opportunity to learn, but I'm not sure that I feel knowledgeable enough to really say I would know something to change about that.
That's a perfectly fine answer. And for what it's worth, I think I got the stumper tonight. So next question.
You can ask me something about the library. I mean, I love the library. Let me go to that.
Member Woodward, not about the library, but your question.
Good evening, Ms. Oberbing. Jim Woodward, Consul at Large, and my question for you tonight is regular attendance and engagement at the board meetings is required. Will you be able to attend all the scheduled meetings or the scheduled meetings? Not all.
Yeah, thank you. I do know that is an important part of saying yes to a board or a commission, is that you need to attend, and not only attend, but participate and actively participate. I have seen both sides of that, where someone says yes to something and then they don't attend. And I've seen the other side where, there have been really successful boards I've been on where people are attending and participating and contributing. And I would like to be part of the latter. I am someone who values the participation of that and engaging with other members of the board and the commission, because I think together, you have to actively engage and be a participant. So in short, yes, I would do my very best to attend and participate in the board or commission I would be chosen to serve.
Great. Thank you.
Member Wink.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Gina Oldenburg. I am Cheryl Wink. I'm a council member at large, and I would like to know how your service on the board and or commission to which we may appoint you benefit you as an Englewood citizen, either personally or professionally.
Thank you. I love that question, Councilwoman. I have lived in Englewood over 11 years, and I have seen so much growth and very thoughtful changes in Englewood.
Yep.
And so I think even without being on the board, I benefit. So I would like to be on a board and just even figure out how I can benefit even more. One recent example is just the consideration for Dartmouth Avenue and the quieting project. I don't think that's what it's called.
Calming.
Yeah, traffic calming. Thank you. Because I live 4 houses from Dartmouth, and I think that's an important project for the city. And I'm glad that the city is thinking about this.
Right.
So I know I will benefit. And now I would like to see the other side of it, how I can benefit even more.
Thank you for that answer. It is something to be involved in the different discussions, and just be a part of the community. So thank you so much. I'm glad to hear you've been here 11 years and that you're willing to serve even more. So
thank you.
Ms. Oberding, I'm just going to ask the question just because you're one of the biggest proponents of the library. Would you have interest in serving in the library board?
I sure would. And I thought I checked that box. I apologize if I did not. I'm really open to serving in the capacity that would benefit the city. I really am. I don't know that you want me on the, finance committee, just because that seems like that's not my area of expertise. Or I do it all day long, so maybe you just don't want my tired brain doing that. But there are many areas that I would be interested in serving on, and the library would be one of them.
I had jokes, but I kept my mouth shut. But do you happen to have any questions for us?
Ooh, I guess the one big question is what would exclude me, or what would, what would not be optimal about my application, in which you would say, no, this is not someone we would want to serve on a board or commission.
Well, I guess I could answer that. So, and Gina, I guess part of the reason why I asked about the library board is that I don't think we had many applicants or any at all. And just from our conversations, I know that you're a big, like I said, big proponent of the library. So it's more of a numbers game. I think you did fantastic. Obviously, we know each other from the gym as well as from Englewood. So I think you did a fantastic job. And tonight, I don't think anything is swaying me from not considering you for other boards. So, but I think it mostly is just a numbers game kind of thing.
Sure.
Any
Yeah,
other questions?
No, I don't. I mean, I'm really open, honestly, to whatever you truly think would benefit the city.
Okay, perfect. Well, Ms. Oberding, I believe that we are at time. Thank you very much for making time for us. Thank you very much for applying. We'll be in touch soon. I think I mentioned we'll deliberate tonight. On the 23rd, we'll make a final decision. You'll hear from staff after the 23rd.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a great night.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right, everyone. I think we are now taking a break. Jackie, what time are we meeting back up at? Is it at 7:40 or?
Well, let's do 10 minutes because it looks like Ken got on early. So yeah,
Okay.
if we do 10 minutes, what, 7 or 7:35 back?
Let's meet back up at 7:35. All
We
right,
did have
everyone. 10 minute break.
sorry, we had an applicant drop out, Rachel, so we did have a spot open today.
Yeah, thank you very much for letting me know. All right, 10-minute break, back at 7:35, everyone. Thank you. Hello, Mr. Chu. Just give us 1 second here. Just getting back from a 10-minute break. So got a couple council members that we're still waiting on. All right, Mr. Shu, are you ready to begin?
Sure.
Perfect. So good evening. My name is Othaniel Sierra. I'm the council member for District 1 as well as mayor for the city. Mr. Shu, tonight we're going to be asking you 7 questions. You'll have 10 minutes to answer those questions. The time does go fast, so you may want to keep some of your answers succinct. If there's a remaining time available at the end, you are able to ask us any further questions. So, and once we get to around 9 minutes, I'll alert you, or Jackie will alert you by raising her hand. So, any questions before we get started?
Nope, sounds good.
All right, perfect. Well, I appreciate you applying tonight, and thank you very much for your time. My question to you is, what motivates you to apply for an Englewood Board or Commission at this time?
Well, I'm new to Englewood. I've been living here for a little over a year now. And to be completely honest, I guess, I was on the website and I saw something that said that sometimes it's hard to fill these positions. And I thought maybe I could help out the city and do my part.
Hey, I like it. Thank you very much for that. Member Anderson, you're next.
Good evening, Mr. Shu. I'm Joe Anderson, District 3 Council member. My question for you tonight is, what knowledge, skills, or abilities would you bring to the commissions you've applied for, which it looks like are the Housing Authority and the Historic Preservation Commission? And how would Englewood benefit in a positive way from your service on one of those boards?
Sure. So I'm really open to serving on multiple, any number of our committees, I guess. I chose the housing one because I work for a national nonprofit organization called NeighborWorks America. We are congressionally funded, and our charge is to support the development of affordable housing across the country. So that's kind of my background, but I've actually only been doing this for about 6 years or so. Prior to that, I had a background in costume design. I was a theatrical costume designer for 20 years. And so I do have an arts background as well. And so I noticed that I think there's an arts commission or arts board as well. So I'd be happy to serve on that one as well. But my current work is in affordable housing. And so I do understand kind of some of that world and think that I could bring some value to the city.
Very good. Can I just ask a follow-up on that? What is your what specifically does the nonprofit do to help develop affordable housing?
Sure. So we're congressionally funded, and our charge by Congress is we're pass-through funders, essentially. Congress appropriates about $160 million to us, and our charge is to grant that money out to organizations around the country that is developing affordable housing. So there's an organization here in Denver called Rocky Mountain Communities, which is an organization in our network. And so we provide them with support. We provide them with TA. We also provide them with organizational capacity building.
Very good. Yeah, thank you for that.
Member Newnenkamp.
Good evening. I'm Chelsea Newnenkamp, the City Council member for District 2. Thank you so much for being with us tonight. Can you describe an experience in your past during which you worked with a group of people with diverse and sometimes opposing views and perspectives?
Sure, yeah. So as I mentioned, I used to be a costume designer for about 20 years. And about 7 or 8 years ago, I decided to I was living in Pittsburgh at the time. And there's a neighborhood in Pittsburgh where 25% of the property, roughly 25 to 30% of the properties are vacant and or abandoned. And I decided to get involved in the community. The neighborhood was a neighborhood that was next to the neighborhood that I actually lived in. And had several friends that lived there, and they asked if I would be willing to help them kind of engage the community in sort of rethinking how they might address vacant and abandoned properties. And they asked me specifically because I was an artist, and so they wanted me to come in to think creatively with them to kind of do some work in their community. And I would say that was probably one of the most challenging things I've ever done. You know, I don't have a community development background. I'm an artist. I'm not a community organizer. I don't know anything about property or real estate. And somehow I got kind of looped into this and spent about a year working with the community. And we developed this project called the Vacant Home Tour Project, where the community actually came together to showcase their vacant and abandoned properties, kind of like those home and garden tours, but showcasing vacant and abandoned properties. And I would say that it was a super contentious project. As I'm sure you can imagine, you know, there's a lot of different income levels in that community. There's race issues in that community. And it was about how to navigate bringing people from many different perspectives to the table to kind of work together to create this project, which was really exciting.
That's wonderful. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, I love that story. Member Russell.
Good evening, Mr. Chu. It's very nice to have you this evening. My name is Rita Russell. I'm a council member at large. And my question for you is, what do you like most about Englewood?
You know, so I lived in Thornton the first 7 years that I lived here in Denver. And I remember the first time I drove through Englewood, and I drove by the post office, and I just thought, what a beautiful building. And it kind of actually made me stop, and I parked, and then I saw Englewood Town Center, and it was right around the winter time, so trees had lights around the trees. And, you know, coming all the way from Thornton, I was thinking, wow, this town is so far south. I don't think I could ever live here, but it sure is cute. And it's funny because, you know, about a year and a half ago, when my husband and I were looking for properties or a new home, you know, we wanted to move closer to Denver, our realtor asked us if we had thought about Englewood, and I actually didn't even know where it was. So I had to ask him where it was, because I actually didn't know that I was not in Denver when I drove through here the first time. But once he brought me down here, I remembered completely, like, that post office and the fact that you decorated your main street essentially with Christmas lights, and it just had a really beautiful, like, town community feel to me. So that's what I love about it.
That is great, and we're glad to have you. That was a wise choice. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem, you're up.
I'm Steve Ward. I represent Council District 4. And my question for you is, what, if anything, would you like to see improved about the boards or commissions that you applied for?
Ooh, that's a really tough question. As a newcomer to the town, I guess I'm not completely sure. I would say, you know, at least from what I've been reading in the local, I guess, newspaper or the newsletter, you know, certainly things like the train depot and its kind of journey to becoming, but not quite becoming, a museum are things that, you know, I would love to have some impact on or effect to see if I can move things like that forward, because it's such a lovely space that it's a shame that that project either can't move forward or move on or do something different so that it can really be a contributing part of the town.
Thank you.
Member Woodward.
Thank you, and good evening. My name is Jim Woodward. I'm a council member at large. My question for you is, regular attendance and engagement with the board or commission is required. Will you be able to attend scheduled meetings?
Yeah, I'm committed to doing that. So when I was living in Thornton for 3 years, I served on the Thornton Assistance Council. So I served on a commission for Thornton where we decided on how to distribute grant funds to nonprofit organizations in the Thornton community that were doing good things for the community.
Great. Very good. Thank you.
And Member Wink.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Kenneth Chu. I am Cheryl Wink, and I am a council member at large. So how will your service on a board or a commission in Englewood benefit you as a new citizen of Englewood, either personally or professionally?
Yeah, I mean, again, as I mentioned, I'm only about a year, just a little over a year old here in Englewood. I love to learn more about the city. I'm really beginning to fall in love with it. I love the Main Street area. I would love to do my part for it. And so I think for me, it would be about building community and feeling like my place in this city.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
True. Yep.
Mr. Shu, I think we're at time here. So just to let you know, we will be deliberating tonight in terms of placements on the boards and commissions. We'll make a final decision on the 23rd of this month, which you should hear from our members of staff after placements. But I do want to thank you for your time tonight. Thank you very much for the interview, and we look forward to hearing from you again soon.
Great. Thank you all so much. Have a good evening.
Have a good night. All right, we're moving on to Mr. Vincent up next. I have too many documents open. Let me see here. Yes, Mr. Vincent. Good evening, Mr. Vincent. Can you hear me?
Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Vincent. My name is Othaniel Sierra. I'm the District 1 council member, as well as mayor for the city. Mr. Vincent, tonight we'll be asking you 7 questions. You'll have 10 minutes to answer those questions. At minute 9, Jackie McKinnon, she'll raise her hand to let you know that you have 60 seconds left. If there's any time remaining, towards the end, you can ask members of council any further questions. So anything before we get started, Mr. Vincent?
Wonderful. Let's go.
Oh, thank you very much for making time for us tonight. Mr. Vincent, what motivates you to apply for an Englewood board or commission at this time?
I've lived in Englewood since 2020, and I have been engaged with the police department as a volunteer chaplain, and I'm just considering more and more how I can continue to engage and become more civically active with the city that I have quickly grown to love and have loved for quite some time through the memories of my wife, who has lived here nearly her entire life.
Well, that's great, Mr. Vincent. Thank you very much for your time, and thank you for your service up to this point. Mr. Anderson.
Good evening, Mr. Vincent. Joe Anderson, District 3 City Council member. My question tonight for you is, what knowledge, skills, or abilities would you bring to the commissions you've applied for? Those commissions being Planning and Zoning or the Board of Adjustment and Appeals. And how would Englewood benefit from your service on one of those commissions?
And I admit that they're both boards that I would be learning in, but I have just finished the Citizens Planning School through the City of Englewood, and through taking that school, just learned a ton about planning and zoning, and it really sparked some interest for me to dig in deeper and to think about how, as a city, we can best align our infrastructure, all of the bests that we have, and the areas that we can grow to be a better city.
Very good. Thank you.
Member Newnenkamp.
Good evening, Mr. Vincent. Thanks for being with us tonight. I'm Chelsea Newnenkamp, the City Council member from District 2. Can you share an experience from your past with us when you worked with a group of people with diverse and potentially opposing views and perspectives?
As a vocation, I'm an ordained Lutheran pastor in a church that has actually it's been longer than 10 years now, but as a larger church body that has worked through the full inclusion of LGBTQ individuals, along with responding to race matters, and more specifically African-American matters as an African-American male myself, in a church that's predominantly white, working into this full inclusion of what it means to be church. And I think in the work of city, to be, people who live together best to care for I've been on boards in my national church to do that work. I've written legislation for our church to connect with predominantly African American churches, namely the AME Church, to direct our leadership to connect with and work along with and learn from the AME Church in gaining what that best diversity as people together would be.
That's wonderful. Thank you for sharing.
Member Russell.
Good evening, Reverend Vincent. It's nice to have you here this evening. My name is Rita Russell. I'm a council member at large. And my question for you is, what do you like most about Englewood?
My wife.
Good answer.
Yeah, and she's actually not even in the house right now, so I'm not even saying it where she's in earshot. But honestly, like, I have heard about Englewood my entire life with her, about how great it is, both good and bad, about how the police department was both horrible and wonderfully better, about everything that you could talk about Cinderella City and how great it no longer exists. Just because it like all it was, it stopped being. And I love living here. I love the adjacentness of Denver, but not having to be in Denver is really amazing. To be able to live in Member Anderson's district and sort of have home. And home really matters to me. I've been quite the transient individual most of my life, most of our life together. And I told her when I finally had this opportunity to find a call in the area, we would move back here. And the home that she has grown up in, she's a Englewood grad. She grew up in the home that we live in now. Her father passed away, and I promised her we would keep the home, and that's why we're here. And I plan on dying here as well.
Well, that is exciting. So can I just ask you, it is a brick house on the east side of the street, correct?
I believe so, yeah. Sorry, I'm directionally challenged. I
Listen,
was an
okay.
officer in the National Guard, so I'm directionally challenged.
No problem. I just wanted to tell you that I grew up in a house across the street from where you live.
Oh.
And I believe a Lutheran pastor at one point lived in your house years ago. So
you know what? I think that pastor lived on, because Holly always, my wife, Holly always talks about a pastor that lived across the street on the corner house that's like right at Stamford and Washington.
Okay, so the person I'm thinking of lived farther in the middle of the block.
Okay.
So anyway, but welcome to Englewood.
Yeah,
Glad to have you here.
I'll let the two of you continue this conversation after the call.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Sorry.
No, you're good.
Good evening, Mr. Vincent. I'm Steve Ward. I represent Council District 4. And my question for you is, what, if anything, would you like to see improved about the boards or commissions that you applied for?
I don't know about improvement, but I think just a willingness to dig as deep as possible about what it means to be a city that is both advancing in the way that it thinks about, when I think about being part of planning and zoning, what does it mean to build multifamily homes in areas that were normally single family homes? And how does that impact what was normally single family homes? And to think about what does it mean to be future leaning as our population grows, but also keep the things that I love about Englewood, because I know all my neighbors, and I love that piece about the single family home, section that I live in. And so, it's the willingness to both look into the future, but also hang on to those bits and pieces that we all love about Englewood.
Thank you.
All right. My name is Jim Woodward. I'm one of the council members at large. My question for you tonight is regular attendance and engagement with the board or commission that you're a member of is required. Will you be able to attend the scheduled meetings?
Currently, yes. And I don't see anything on the horizon that would hinder that.
All right. Very good. Thank you.
And Member Wink.
Thank you, Mayor. Michael Vincent, I'm Cheryl Wink, and I am one of the council members at large as well. So how will your service on a board and or commission benefit you as an Englewood citizen, in addition to your current engagement with Englewood? So beyond that, how will this benefit you personally and or professionally?
It will force me to continue to engage deeper into the city that I just love, into the nuts and bolts of what it means to see this city continue to thrive and move into the future. But there's no financial gain or anything like that in that for me. It's more personal love for the city that would be the gain for me.
Yeah, no financial.
Yeah.
Usually not, but good. Thank you so much. Thank you for applying and for being here.
Mr. Vincent, it looks like we may be at time now. Just to let you know about the process tonight, we'll be deliberating placement for the boards and commissions. We'll make a final decision on the 23rd of this month. And then you should hear from somebody from our staff on placement, and terms will begin in February. So any further questions about that, or?
No, thank you so much for your time this evening.
Thank you very much, Mr. Vincent. It's great to meet you, and look forward to working with you soon.
Wonderful. Thanks for serving the city.
Thank you. Moving on, I think we have Hope Swearingen.
Hello.
Good evening, Ms. Swearingen. Did I pronounce your last name correctly?
Yes, you did.
I know your name just because of that. I watched the show Deadwood, so not sure if you watched it. But anyway, my name is Othaniel Sierra. I'm a District 1 council member as well as mayor for the city. Tonight, we'll be asking you 7 questions. You'll have 10 minutes to answer those questions. At the 9-minute mark, Jackie McKinnon will raise her hand, so letting you know that you have 60 seconds left. If there is any time remaining towards the end, you're able to ask members of council any questions. So are you ready to begin?
Yes, I am.
So Ms. Swearingen, my question for you is, what motivates you to apply for an Englewood board or commission at this time?
Yeah, that's a great question. I am from Littleton, Colorado. Previously was living up in Fort Collins for the last 8 years, and I'm now back in Englewood, and I've lived here for 2 years, and I'm just looking for more ways to get involved in my community and serve and get plugged into Englewood.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Ms. Swearingen. Member Anderson, you're next.
Good evening, Ms. Swearingen. My name is Joe Anderson. I'm the District 3 Council Representative. And my question for you tonight is, what knowledge or skills or abilities would you bring to the boards or commissions you've applied for, which looks like our P&Z and Englewood Housing Authority? And specifically, how would Englewood benefit from your service on those boards?
Yeah, so I think the main priority and importance for me is around mobile home park protection. So I previously lived up in Fort Collins for over 4 years, was living in a mobile home park community and working with the community to work with the city on different zoning and policies that would protect that community from being redeveloped and then causing the community to be displaced. And so I bring some knowledge and experience in working with lower income communities and populations, and not only living there and having the experience as a resident, but also being able to advocate for those communities to do what we can to offer more housing solution and also continue to protect mobile home parks from being redeveloped and then causing people to be displaced. And actually, the mobile home park I used to live in, recently the owner put it up to offer, and the residents had 90 days to submit a counter offer in which they were able to get approved for $6 million, which they raised through loans and grants and donations, and are now owners of their own mobile home park, which is a huge success in the work that we did.
Wow, that's awesome. Thank you. Yeah, and I love that you're interested in that, and that's something we definitely need to look at for our mobile home parks as well. So appreciate you.
Yeah, I agree. Member Noonkamp.
Ms. Swearingen, it's good to see you. Thanks so much for applying to be on a board and commission. My question is, can you describe an experience in your past where you worked with a group of people with diverse and sometimes opposing views and perspectives? I'm sure you have an example.
Yeah, the first thing that comes to mind to me is some of the restorative justice work I've done. So I'm in the clinical mental health profession, and through that I've been able to engage in restorative justice work. And with that work, we're often, working with people that have very challenging and different viewpoints or areas of conflict in which we are trying to find common ground and resolution. And so even just being able to, encourage for people to get into each other's shoes for a second and understand maybe some sense of common ground, not ever having to agree, but learning how to respect and engage in those conversations is something that I've spent a lot of time and work and energy trying to facilitate within groups with a lot of differences.
That's great. Thank you.
Member Russell.
Good evening, Ms. Swearingen. It's nice to meet you. The question that I have for you is, what do you like most about Englewood?
That's a great question. I really like the size of Englewood. I think being in a larger city, it is really great to be a part of a smaller city that feels accessible. Even something like this, I don't think I would feel, I think I'd feel a bit intimidated being on something bigger than Englewood. So it just, it feels like there's a lot of opportunities to get involved. I feel like I can actually make an impact in my community and within my neighborhood. I love what Englewood advocates for. I was able to receive the neighborhood engagement grant this fall and put together a neighborhood party, which was just a really cool thing to feel like I was supported by within my community of Englewood, to be able to create connections with my neighbors and with the city and feel supported by Englewood. So I love the proximity. I love the location, and I just love how, accessible and tangible it feels to make connections with people.
That's great. And welcome to Englewood. We love having you here too.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Hi, I'm Steve Ward. I represent Council District 4. And my question for you tonight is, what, if anything, would you like to see changed about the boards or commissions that you applied for?
Yeah, I think kind of what I stated before. I think that I would really like to bring attention to just the, I guess, the need for recognition around mobile home parks. I think that typically they can be very overlooked and even stigmatized for different reasons. And I think there can be a perspective or a mindset that because these spaces depreciate anyways, let's get people out of them and into new places. And often they are looked at as places and opportunities for redevelopment. And I just think that some of our most vulnerable populations and communities have the most stability in those locations for a lot of different reasons. And so I think my hope is to just be able to offer new perspectives and information and connections with how we can engage with some of our more vulnerable communities and populations here in Englewood to offer more solutions towards the housing crisis.
Thank you.
Member Woodward.
Hi, my name is Jim Woodward. I'm a council member at large. My question for you is, regular attendance and engagement with the board or commission is required. Will you be able to attend all the scheduled meetings?
I will be able to, yes.
Great, thank you.
Member Wink.
Thank you, Mayor. Hello, Hope Swearingen. I am Cheryl Wink, and I am a city council member at large. So my question is, how will your service on this board and or commission benefit you as an Englewood citizen, either personally or professionally? And clearly you've touched on this question a few times in all of your responses, but so if there's some other facet you'd like to add, that'd be great. And then Mayor, after that, I do have a follow-up question if you'll allow me.
I think, again, like I've said, I think I really love doing community work and community engagement. And so I think that being a part of the board will benefit me by engaging in the issues that I really want to be engaging in and help hold me accountable to advocating and standing up for spaces that feel really important. And I think even beyond that will probably create connection for me to engage in those spaces more. And I think those are communities where I have found a sense of home, and I think a sense of, just endearment and kinship with a lot of people. And so I think an opportunity to engage even further feels like a huge benefit to me.
Great, thank you.
And go ahead, Member Wink, you said you had another question?
I do, thank you, Mayor. It's a brief question, Hope. It's the mobile home community you spoke of at the start of your interview questions. Did it by chance include tiny homes? Or the traditional sense of mobile homes only?
So currently right now, it is only mobile home parks, and that's what it was bought as within the community. However, I think that they're working on the zoning right now to incorporate more tiny homes, so that if someone wanted to move their mobile home off the property, they could in fact put a tiny home in that spot. So it's not limited to just the mobile homes.
Very good. Thank you so much for adding to that.
Yeah.
Ms. Swearingen, do you happen to have any questions for us?
I guess my only question is, I applied for both because I wasn't sure which would make more sense for some of the issues that I want to get engaged with. So I think I would prefer to probably just be on one if I did get accepted, and I'm not sure maybe what your thoughts are on that, and maybe that's something that you all can discuss. But I think just for you to know, I kind of applied for both the zoning and the housing, not sure maybe which direction would be best.
Sounds good. I'll let Member Anderson answer. Go ahead, Member Anderson.
Yeah, I've been thinking about this during your interview, and I think you would certainly be an asset on the housing authority, but I'm not sure that the housing authority would have any kind of authority in terms of any of the mobile home parks, other than the potential that housing authority could also always potentially purchase properties to convert them or keep them as affordable housing. But I think P&Z maybe would make sense. Of course, we'll have to discuss this and see where everybody else lands. But I'm not sure how the housing authority would be a really good fit there, specifically if you're interested in the mobile home issue.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that. Any other questions from Member Wink? It looks like you have your hand up.
Thanks. Yeah, my unsolicited advice is it seems to me, again, yes, as we've said, the council will discuss and then tonight and then make official votes in terms of assignments at a later date. But it seems that the value of your advocacy and your experiential knowledge and your passion may best translate in planning and zoning.
Okay.
My viewpoint, that's one person's.
No, that's helpful. Thank you for sharing that.
You bet.
Ms. Swearingen, I believe that we are at time. So tonight we will be deliberating and make or vote on the final placements on the 23rd. You'll hear from members of staff during that week, and the assignments will begin in February. But really appreciate your interview tonight. Thank you very much for applying, and look forward to working with you soon.
Yeah, sounds good. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
You too.
All right. Up next is Tiana Duncan. Ms. Duncan.
Hi. Can you?
Yep, I can hear you and I can see you. Good evening.
Hi, great.
My name is Nathaniel Sierra. I'm a District 1 council member as well as mayor for the city. Tiana, tonight we're going to be asking you 7 questions. You'll have 10 minutes to answer those questions. At the 9-minute mark, Jackie McKinnon, she'll raise her hand, letting you know that you have 60 seconds remaining. And so I believe that just may be it. So we keep it pretty simple. You may want to limit some of your answers or just keep it a little more concise because it could easily just back up in terms of time. So
okay.
Are you ready to begin, Ms. Duncan?
I am, thanks.
Perfect. So my question for you, Ms. Duncan, is what motivates you to apply for an Englewood Border Commission at this time?
My motivation to apply is I just want to be involved in the community that I live in. I just moved here about 6 months ago, and so I'm kind of new to this community, but I've like seen a lot of good things, heard a lot of good things, and it seems like there are a lot of people engaged and involved, and I'd like to be one of them. Yeah.
No, that's great. Thank you very much for applying. Member Anderson, you're next.
Good evening, Ms. Duncan. I'm Joe Anderson. I represent District 3 on City Council. My question tonight is, what knowledge, skills, or abilities do you bring to the commissions you've applied for, which looks like there's Sustainability Commission and Historic Preservation Commission? And how would Englewood benefit from your service on one of those commissions?
So I work in archaeology right now. So I kind of work with historic preservation with what I do. But I'm interested in, I marked that I would want to be a part of the sustainability board as my number one choice, just because, I want to do something new that I haven't done before. And I think that that's a very valuable place that needs a lot of voices today. So I'd like to lend my voice to that and get involved in that. But also I think that I do have experience in historic preservation. So I feel that I would also be a good voice in that area.
Very good. Thank you.
Member Noonan-Camp.
Hello, I'm Chelsea Noonan-Camp, the City Council member for District 2. Thank you so much for applying and being here tonight. Can you describe an experience in the past during which you worked in a group of people with diverse and sometimes opposing views and perspectives?
Yeah. Let's see. In the past couple years, I moved from California to Colorado. And in California, I worked a lot on the wildfire cleanup efforts that happened out there. And I was a part of the archaeology task force that did a lot of that. And so it was something that big, the wildfires. There's a lot of opposing views that need to happen. There's operations need to get done as fast as possible. There's a lot of biological concerns. There's a lot of water resources that need to be taken into consideration. There's the archaeological resources that need to be taken into consideration. And I feel like I worked pretty well in that environment, and I had to communicate with a lot of people. I had to talk to people that didn't always see the same thing as me, but I had to be a voice for what I was there for, and I needed to stick up with for what I needed to do. So I guess that's my example.
That's helpful. Thank you.
Member Russell.
Thank you, Ms. Duncan. My name is Rita Russell. I'm a council member at large. It's great to meet you and have you here tonight. My question for you, actually, I'd just like to ask two questions. How long have you lived in Englewood?
6 months.
6 months. And so in that 6 months, what do you like most about Englewood?
I like that it feels that people care about what's going on. I think it's not, obviously Denver is very close and it's not as big as Denver, and I like that. I like the green spaces and how people seem to care about them and they're being taken care of, and people go to them and use them. And I see how people are kind of throwing events to meet others, and how there's a lot of programs for I've seen the shovel your neighbor's snow programs and stuff like that, and I think that's really nice. And I just kind of want to be more involved in what's going on here. So yeah.
Well, it's great to have you. Welcome to Englewood.
Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Ward.
Hi, Ms. Duncan. I'm Steve Ward. I represent Council District 4. And I just have to add on a personal note, I think this is the first time I've ever actually met an archaeologist. So this has been interesting to hear you talk about what they actually do. My question for you tonight is, what, if anything, would you like to see improved in Englewood regarding the board or commission that you applied for?
I don't know if I have a solid answer for that yet because I feel like there's a time for learning and then a time for like seeing improvements. And I guess I don't know enough about what I'll be involved in specifically. I did watch a couple of like the board meetings. I know they're like recorded on the webpage, and I liked what I saw, but I don't think I've like seen enough to know like what I would want to improve yet. I would want to take it in first.
That's a perfectly acceptable answer. Thank you.
Okay.
Member Woodward.
Yes, hi, Ms. Duncan. My question is an easy one. It's regular attendance and engagement for board and commission meetings is required. Will you be able to attend the scheduled meetings?
Yes. Yes,
okay.
I should.
Very good. Thank you.
Thanks.
Easy. Member Wink.
Good evening, Tiana Duncan. I am Cheryl Wink. I'm one of the council members at large. And my question is, given if appointed to the boards and commissions to which you applied, how will they benefit you? How will they serve you as an Englewood citizen, either personally and or professionally?
How will they serve me?
Yeah, previously member Anderson asked, I think, about the value you'll bring to the city. So yeah, what about the reverse?
I think that sustainability and historic preservation really benefits everyone, me included, but you know, the environment is so important, and also like the environment's important, and also like taking care of our history is important, and like making sure things don't disappear, like these green spaces and these historic resources. And I think they need like that they as an entity will help them being preserved, and good people speaking up for them will benefit me. So me doing that as well will benefit all of us.
Brilliant. Thank you, Tiana. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Ms. Duncan, we're at the, well, we still have time. Do you happen to have any questions for us?
I guess my only question is, you only get approved for like one board, right? I don't really know how things work.
Yeah, so it just depends. Like normally we try to strive just to get one person in each board. We did have a gentleman tonight where they don't meet very often, so there's a potential to get that person into additional boards. But normally we try to stick to one, and just depending on the number of applicants is the other thing. Is like I think we may have enough tonight to kind of fill all the boards. So yeah, it's more of a numbers game than anything.
Okay. Well, great. Yeah. I don't think I have any more questions.
Yeah, and Ms. Duncan, I guess I have a question. Would you be open to serving on any other boards other than the sustainability or historic preservation?
Those are the two I'm most interested in, but if there are like, you know, openings that need someone, I would be open to like looking at what they are and what's needed. Yeah.
Perfect. No, I appreciate that answers. Yeah, so if you have no further questions, Ms. Duncan, tonight we're going to be deliberating. Actually, I believe you may have been the last applicant tonight. So we'll meet tonight to just go over placement. On the 23rd of this month, we'll go ahead and vote. And at that point, you should hear from some member of staff during that week to let you know placement, and then the committees will start in February.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Ms. Duncan, thank you very much for your time tonight, and you have a great evening.
You too. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
And I believe, yeah, Ms. Duncan was the last applicant. So everyone, do we need a short break? Do we need a 5-minute break, or are we ready to start deliberating?
So how long are we time boxing this period of time? Just so we don't just, you know, some of us like to talk more than others. I mean, do we want to put any parameter around? I say that with love. Do we want to put any parameter around this, or I just don't want us to discuss it till 11, or do I take a break if I know we're going to talk for 40 minutes, or, you know, if it's going to be a long discussion, 2 hours, then please let's not take a break. you know.
I can't see this going longer than 30 minutes would be my guess. We'll probably get off
Famous
by
last
9
words.
o'clock.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
So are you guys ready to keep going? All right, I don't see any objections. So we could go ahead and get started. So Member Wink, there was a decision that anyone that is reapplying to a board is going to be automatically placed. There were no objections to that. So we really just need to make decisions on the remaining boards. And we had an amazing number of applicants tonight, which is going to make this very difficult. A lot of people also requested to be on similar boards. So I haven't had a chance to kind of go through it, but let's see if I can find my spreadsheet so I can figure this out. But Jackie, do you, trying to think of where this, which link this is. Hold on one second. There we go. I got it. All right. I'm on the board. Okay. So Member Anderson, I'll let you kick us off while I get organized here, but I think I have the sheet up, but go ahead.
Well, I was just so if I understand this correctly, for example, on the Board of Adjustment and Appeals, we have 2 reappointments. So they would take two of the spaces of the 4 spaces there. So there's 2 left over. That's correct?
Correct. And in that situation, it seems like we have, I wouldn't necessarily call it an easy one, but we also have an alternate member. So we would just have to figure out who would be the alternate member or regular member, but you're right. Yes.
Okay, got it.
Any other questions from council before we get knee deep into this? Jackie, go ahead.
So on the reappointments, you are putting them on the longer term, correct? There's a few that have shorter terms.
Yes.
Like, does that make sense? Like P&V has some long
Typically,
terms
yes.
and then some short ones. So
Yeah, that
assuming they're
makes sense to
appointments.
me,
Okay,
unless anybody thinks otherwise. I don't
and
see
the
anything
shorter
yet, but
terms are just from people resigning in the last 6 months, so.
right.
Member
Okay.
Russell has her hand raised.
Yeah. Member Russell, go ahead.
I would like to suggest that perhaps we go through the whole list and put in the reappointments first and then go back and discuss the other appointments.
Yep. I would be in agreement with that, Member Russell.
Yep, that's just.
Okay, perfect. So Jackie, I guess we can go through this one by one. So Board of Adjustment and Appeals, they all have the same expiring dates. So we would appoint Mr. Friesen and Mr. Taylor to 2 of those regular member positions.
Okay.
Nothing on the Code Enforcement Advisory Committee for reappointment. Same with the Englewood Housing Authority. It looks like they're all new applicants. Yep. Same with the Firefighters Pension Board. Same with the Preservation Commission. Mally, let me see. I'm just going to keep going through. Okay, so Planning and Zoning is the next one. And we have Mr. Haggerty as a reappointment. And so we are saying that we would put him in one of the February 1st, 2027 expirations, correct?
Yes.
And actually we have an alternate to a regular, Aaron Martinez. So I guess we didn't decide that, but I would be open to moving Mr. Martinez to one of those regular terms expiring in 2027.
That would be my preference as well.
I
That
agree.
sounds fine. Yep.
Perfect. So that leaves 2 open spots as well as an alternate. Police Officers Pension Board. No one there. Reappointment, we have Mr. Scott Gilbert, 2027 regular member. Moving on to the Sustainability Committee. We have 2 reappointments and an alternate to a regular. So I would be open to moving all 3, including the alternates, to the regular member slots, leaving 2 alternates. No disagreements. I think we're good. Same with the ETAC committee. 2 reappointments, 2 regular members. I'd be fine putting Mr. Dietrich and Mr. Lewis there. So Jackie, I'm trying to think, we still have a alternate on that committee, correct?
On the Englewood Transportation Advisory Committee?
Yeah. Yes. I believe we do since it's not an open slot, so.
I believe so. They might just not have wanted to move up. So let me.
No, that's fine. Well, if we have
Okay.
two reappointments, it kind of makes sense, so. And then for the Urban Renewal Authority, we have Ms. Cohn for reappointment in the 2028 expiration. And then Mr. Ty Boreski, regular member on the Water and Sewer Board.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. All right, so let's just move back to the top. For the Boards of Adjustment and Appeals.
Mayor?
I'm sorry, who was that?
Sorry, I'm raising my hand.
Go ahead, Chelsea.
Jackie, I have a question before we move on. I didn't see Cultural Arts Commission on here, but that commission did just have a resignation at the beginning of the year. Are we filling that with an alternate, or can we place someone there as well?
They were asking to wait till summer because they want to advertise the position. Because the position was never advertised, because we stopped advertising, I believe, December 9th. And the board decided they want to put it out for advertisement.
Okay, because I was just at that board meeting a couple of days ago, and they were like, "Yeah, we need another member. This is who we're looking for." So there's maybe some cross wires, but that's fine.
They really want somebody that's cultural, that wants to be on that committee, and then just want somebody because.
So Jackie, was there another, you sent us an email like in the last week, did you not, about an opening in a board as well?
Planning and zoning. So another opening for planning and zoning, and they were good with keeping or adding the opening to this because we'd advertised for it.
Okay, so the extra opening in planning and zoning is for that member that just resigned, right?
Yes.
Okay.
That was all. Thank you.
Perfect. No, thanks for that, Chelsea. So on Board and Adjustment and Appeals, any objection to placing the 4 there? And we can do this tentatively at the moment in the event that we want to move someone around just based off the interviews. So we're open with as is with those 4 members.
We need to decide which one is the regular member and which one is the alternate.
Yeah.
I think you put Mr. Vincent as the alternate since it was his second choice, and Mr. Collins is the regular since it was his first choice. So, my recommendation.
I would be open for that. Any objections? All right, perfect. We didn't have any applicants for Code Enforcement Advisory Committee. Do we want to skip that and come back to it just based on any available positions?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Moving on to Englewood Housing Authority. This will be hard. I will just open it up.
I've never seen so many qualified people for that board. What happened today? That was hilarious.
Well, I think, sorry.
Go ahead.
I thought Mr. Chu would be, with his experience with affordable housing, would be a great fit for that one.
The one person that I would like to suggest is Gina Oberding. She's lived in Englewood for quite a while, and I just think she would be a good fit in there.
Okay.
However, that's not her first choice. I don't know what her first choice is. There are a lot of people that want to serve on PNC, but I don't think there's that many openings.
I'm not going to lie to you, Member Russell. I would love to put her on the library board. She is there all the time. But I'll go ahead and put that down at least as a, just that you like her on the Housing Authority. Member Nooncamp.
Yeah, just looking at the math, I'm sure we all have kind of our rough placements. I would like to see this be Kenneth Chu and Madison Andrews. And I also would support Gina Oberding on the library board because we did not have an applicant for that, and she's a constituent of mine. I know her well. I think she would do really well on the library board, so that would be my recommendation.
So you said,
and noting that Rachel Beaker here did drop out, so she's on that list.
So Madison Andrews was the second name, correct?
Is the what?
You suggested Madison Andrews as your second, as the alternate?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Mayor Pro Tem.
I'd like to place Mr. Chu on the Historic Preservation Commission as opposed to the Housing Authority. I really appreciated his comments, particularly mentioning the depot. And I think he has a good idea of some things that he would like to see the Historic Preservation Commission do. And I think he would be quite capable of making a positive contribution there.
Noted. Do you have any suggestions on this board? Mayor Pro Tem?
Well, that goes to say that I would leave Mr. Chu off this particular board if we're going to place him on the Historic Preservation Commission.
Fair enough. I could get to Member Woodward and then come back to you. Member Woodward?
I was going to suggest Mary Miles Lambert for the Housing Authority also. I thought she was a good choice there.
Yeah,
but the alternate position is okay with me too.
Member Wink?
I too thought of Lambert for the Housing Authority.
Actually, I did too. There was one thing that she said that just really hit me, that she had experience both in Denver and I believe Englewood with family using public housing also. So I think she would be a good fit there.
I agree.
I would. My top two would be Kenneth Chu and Miles Lambert. But if it works out some other way, I think all these candidates are great.
Yeah, I think those are my two favorite candidates here. Chu and Lambert. Not knowing the order, I guess we can go back down or go through the rest of this and see if there's placement for Mr. Chu in the historic preservation. So, so right now I have Mose Lambert and Mr. Chu as well on there. So, but we'll come back to that. Firefighters Pension Board. No, sorry. Go ahead, Mayor Pro Tem.
Can we just skip the middleman here and put Mr. Brooks on all the pension boards?
Yeah, I figured as much. Firefighters Pension Board, Non-Emergency Retirement Board, and then what's the last one? It's further down. Police officers. I'm okay with that. So I'm in agreement. Member Woodward?
I'm in agreement with that.
I see 4. I already saw Nottinghampton, Chelsea, so I think we're good there as well. So now moving on to Historic Preservation Commission. So 2 applicants, Tiana as well as Kenneth Chu. Mayor Pro Tem, you let your, you kind of already jumped in on this one. Any other comments from this?
I think both these applicants are well qualified, but Chu is my first pick.
I would put Tiana Duncan here because her other choice was Sustainability Commission, and we have a lot of applicants to filter through there too. So
yeah, this one's a hard one. I kind of go both ways here. I'm sorry, did I cut someone off?
I was just going to also weigh in and say I also could see Kenneth Chu here. I loved also what he said about the depot and about the post office. I think he has it's what he really values about the community initially, which I really liked. And Tiana did say, obviously she's an archaeologist, but would like to not necessarily do that as her first choice. So if we could find another spot for her, it would be great. She also mentioned being open to some other things. So we could cross that bridge when we come to it.
Okay. I'm trying to think if we have consensus here on moving forward with one person or the other here.
I don't think we do. I'd be happy to come back to it.
Let's come back to it because I can see the reason for putting Mr. Chu here, but let's come back to it. Malley Center Trust Fund Board. I think this is the one that we talked about earlier today, Jackie, that you said that we don't need an applicant right away.
We don't, and the only one that would really qualify was Michael Vincent because you have to be 55 or older. I don't know if he's 55. He just checked the box like 45 to 55, so I don't know how old he is. So at this point, we don't have an applicant that could work for that.
Sounds good, Jackie. Member Woodward.
Yeah, there was an applicant, but evidently the application didn't go through. I had, after getting the packet, I contacted him because he had sent me an email, or we had traded emails, and he had sent me an email back where he had applied. So something happened to that in the system, or he didn't hit the submit button right or something like that. But he's a regular over at Malley. He's a past Parks and Rec Commission commissioner, and I think he was an appointed council member at one time for a short period of time back in the 90s.
All right, Jackie, I see your hand up.
I was just, he wants to reach out. I can help him apply for the summer appointment. I've got a feeling he just didn't hit the submit, or sometimes when you hit it, if you haven't filled out all the boxes, it just won't go through.
Okay.
Okay, that sounds good. Since we don't have the application, Jim, I think we want to hold off until the summer, since there's no pressing need to have someone in place today. Planning and zoning, another fun one. So, Mayor Pro Tem, go ahead.
I'll start with the first pick, which I think is fairly easy, and that's Tina Prang. I'd like to see her get a seat on this board. Second choice, I'm open to further discussion because that's a little more difficult.
Yeah. Member Wink.
I thought the clear first choice, well, nothing's clear yet. I felt strongly Hope Swearingen could be really a real asset to us there. Yeah, it was definitely Hope and Tina for me.
Okay.
PMZ, yeah.
Perfect. And then we still have the alternate member, so we can't put 3. But Joe, go ahead.
Hope Swearingen was my top choice there, and then I would I think if we did end up appointing Lambert to Mary Mills Lambert to the Housing Authority, then that leaves Madison Andrews would also be one that would fit here. So we could probably appoint all 3 of. I think we could appoint all 3 of those.
What do you think of Michael Vincent, who indicated PMZ?
I would rather see him on Board of Adjustment and Appeals, which is where we got it. That fills that board out. So I think that just allows all 3 of these to get in there.
Yep.
Jim, do you still have your hand up, or let me go to Member Russell and then I'll come to you, Jim. Go ahead, Member Russell.
I would like to see Tina Prang and on the 2/126.
What?
Okay. So yeah, because I think we have the 26 and the 25 open. So that's a good point. Right. So 26. And then Hope for 25 then, Member Russell, or somebody completely different?
Actually, let's see. Let me look at my notes.
While you're doing that, Madison, she's been here over a year, right?
Mm-hmm.
She's been what, a little bit over a year, 18 months, I believe. I can't recall, but she fits the cutoff. Okay.
Actually, I'm not sure. If we're going to put Hope on the P&Z, I would like to put her as the alternate because she has a lot of advocacy for mobile home parks. We don't have that many mobile home parks in Englewood. So if we're going to place her there, I would like to put her as an alternate because then it would give her an opportunity to decide if she really likes it.
Okay. Thank you, Member Russell. Going back to you, Member Woodward.
Yeah, I would like to see Tina on the P&Z on the 27. She's She's been engaged in the community for a long time and is really effective.
Yeah, Jim, the reason why we don't have her on the 27 is that we elevated Martinez and Haggerty to those 227 spots. Since they're reappointments, well, one reappointment and one alternate to regular.
Okay.
If you disagree, we could make a disagreement, but that was originally where we placed them.
Okay, so you're putting Tina then on the 26 and Aaron on the 27. I get it.
Aaron on the 27 and Colin on the 27.
Can I ask a question? Even though Aaron has been on there, has he lived in Englewood for a long time?
Don't think he's, I can't recall. I guess we could go through his application up top, but
Although he's been an alternate for a while, so he's probably really up to speed.
Yeah.
Okay.
Are there any other hands? I saw a bunch of hands just drop. So but what I'm hearing is that Tina with the 26. I would like to see Hope in the 25. And then Madison in the alternate. I see Joe agrees. Any disagreement with that? Again, it's just tentative. We can make modifications later, but any.
Who was in the alternate then?
I had Madison Andrews as the alternate.
Okay.
Yeah, I have Madison still under housing authority and but we can cross that bridge when we come to it.
Cool. All right, so let me just make a note of that.
Wait, nothing. So on PNC, we have Haggerty, Tina on the 26th. And I don't have anybody on that 25.
The 25, I just listed Hope Swearingen.
Okay.
And then as the alternate, Madison Andrews. But caveat that Chelsea has her in the EHA right now, the Housing Authority. So we'll deliberate that a little bit more, but anything else before we move on? All right, we'll move on to Library Board. Just one open spot. I like to put Gina here. Gina, what's Gina's last name again?
Oberding.
Oberding.
Strongly support.
Any disagreement? All right. I'll just write it down for my records. Okay. Moving on to Sustainability Committee. We've had 2 reappointments, and so we're now looking for 3 members, 1 being a regular member.
I want.
Go ahead, Joe.
I wanted to just put in a plug here for Kathleen Bailey. She's been coming to the meetings now for quite a while, and I think it's been really good for me to see her where she's making positive comments and wanting to improve the city. She's been really, they've been open to her engaging in some of the discussions, when she asked to have some input. And I just think it would be a really good experience for her to have that opportunity. I would rather see her here than the Water and Sewer Board. The reason being, all Sustainability Commission is all positive vision, and Water and Sewer Board is managing, kind of managing what we currently have in place. And I think she would just really benefit from the experience, looking towards the future and having a positive, impact on the city and on that board. So yeah. I'd vote for her.
Thank you for that, Joe. I don't think we have an opening with the Water and Sewer Board after the reappointment, so that may make it a moot point as well. But and actually, just a clarification: there's 2 reappointments and an alternate to a regular, so we're really just choosing 2 alternate members at this point.
Right.
Mayor Pro Tem, go ahead.
I agree. Kathleen Bailey, I think, is a fit for the Sustainability Commission, and I know that she applied for Water and Sewer Board, specifically mentioned it, but there not being a position on that after the reappointment makes sustainability an even bigger choice for her.
Okay, perfect. Chelsea.
I would support Kathleen Bailey and Tiana Duncan here. I know there was some conversation about putting Tiana at the historic preservation, but she did note that she would like to do this instead as her first choice. And since I think we can support Mary Mills Lambert for Housing Authority, I think that actually means we would be clean here. So I would do Kathleen and Tiana.
Okay. Rita.
I actually agree. I think this is a good fit for Kathleen Bailey. Not only would it be a positive experience for her, but I believe it would be Kathleen Bailey educates herself very well in everything that she does. And I think it would be a positive experience for the community too, to have that input. And so I would support Kathleen Bailey on the Sustainability Commission.
Okay. I guess I have no objections to Kathleen Bailey or Tiana Duncan. I know that may put us in a pickle on some of the other boards, but I'll be fine putting that in pencil right now. All right, we'll move on to ETAG. It looks like those two positions are filled. Urban Renewal Authority. And we have that filled as well. And we have the Water and Sewer Board, which is filled. Okay. So it looks like, I'm trying to think of, are there any, well, let's go back to the top and just see
Mayor?
where we're at with this. So I'm sorry, go ahead, Chelsea.
Go back to the top. The person that we haven't placed yet, or who doesn't have a home, is Andy Saavedra.
Yeah.
And I thought he was great. And I'm wondering if it would be because the two he applied for already had reappointments, so they just got filled immediately. I wonder if we could reach out to him and see if he would be interested in code enforcement, because we don't have anyone for code enforcement.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, we could do that and just see if he would be willing to serve on that night. I don't think he had a conflict time-wise on Wednesday, so we could pencil him in there, but I like that suggestion. Trying to look if there's anything else, but let's go through the list and just see if there's anybody missing. And Jackie, I'll read them off and just correct me if I got something wrong. Hold on, I got a call. There we go. All right. So I have Randall Friesen and Andy Taylor, as well as Matthew Collins as the regular members. The alternate member on the BOA is Michael Vincent. I'm sorry, what was his first name again? Was it Andy, right? Okay, I should have wrote that down. So Andy as Code Enforcement Advisory. Perfect. Englewood Housing Authority. Actually, we haven't made a decision on this, so should I skip it and then come back, or I see Chelsea, you got your hand up.
Well, I was just going to say, if we end up moving Tiana Duncan to sustainability, we could put Kenneth Chu at historic preservation, and we could do Madison Andrews and Mary Mills Lambert under housing authority. Like, it would all fit. We might be short one alternate in P&Z, but that would give Mary Mills and Madison Andrews their first choices.
I like Mary Mills Lambert also. Could she be the regular?
Yeah. If we're gonna go down that route, yeah, I would think that we would put Mary as the number one, or as the regular member, and Madison as the alternate.
My question with leaving a slot open for the alternate on P&Z,
Yeah,
is that going to create problems if we have absent members on P&Z? They're doing, a lot of the work they're doing is pretty significant. So I definitely don't want to short housing authority since they really want to fill out all those slots, and also they had so many applicants, it'd be really unfortunate to not give them enough. But I think if P&Z doesn't have problems with getting to a quorum, then I think that actually Member Nunecamp's suggestion makes a lot of sense.
So just a quick question. I know that, Jim, you brought it up, but did Mary Mills Lambert, did she state that she can make that time?
The housing,
Whether she
The
could
housing
make
authority, yeah, the housing authority, because they begin at what, 3 o'clock? What
4.
time do these?
Four.
Okay.
I
Or-
remember her saying she's a software engineer and she has loads of flexibility in her time.
Perfect. All right, I just wanted
Yeah.
to verify that. Should have corrected or should have asked while I had her on the phone. All right, perfect. All right, so I'll go ahead and put Mills Lambert as the regular and Madison Andrews as the alternate.
We had, I forgot, we did have Madison as the alternate on P and Z, I think.
Yeah, and I think the suggestion was Member Nooncamp to remove her from the alternate, correct?
Yeah, it's an alternate
Okay.
position on either board. I think her first choice was Housing Authority. And so if it's going to be an alternate on either, I'd rather put her on Housing Authority and then maybe see if we need a different alternate for P and Z. Maybe Michael Vincent, who's also here as a possibility if he wanted to do 2. But that would be my preference.
Okay. Sounds good. Mayor Pro Tem.
Yeah, those boards are both quasi judicial, so we could not appoint Mr. Vincent to the Board of Adjustment and Appeals and to P and Z. However, I was going to suggest the pension boards don't actually meet that often. So Mr. Brooks might actually be a fit for an alternate to P and Z if we want to put someone in that spot.
Okay, perfect. Good suggestion. And good clarification. Anything else, Mayor Pro Tem?
No, that's all I have.
All right, so historic going down to, well, firefighters pension board, we have Mr. Brooks. So historic preservation commission, I wrote it down, what did I do with it? So we have Mr. Chu here, correct?
Yeah.
All right, yes. And then moving on to the Mali, we're leaving that open. Retirement board, the NERP, that is Mr. Brooks. Planning and Zoning Commission. So Mr. Haggerty, Mr. Martinez. In the 27 slots, 26 would be Tina Pring. In the 25 slot would be Hope. And then the alternate is open, but there was a suggestion by making Mr. Colin, or excuse me, it wasn't Colin, Garrett Brooks, potentially.
That would be 4 boards, and one of them being P and Z, which is 2 meetings a month. Another idea is to move Matthew Collins also said that this was he didn't mark it down, but he did say in his interview that he's interested in P and Z. So if we wanted to leave the alternate open on Board of Adjustment and Appeals and put Matthew Collins as the alternate here, I feel better about that than leaving an alternate on P and Z.
If we were going to go with that method, I would actually move Vincent over to P and Z as opposed to the Board of Adjustment and Appeals.
Just based on the ranking?
Well, if I have to make my pick for which of those boards would have a vacant spot, and where I think Mr. Vincent could best use his time, I would push it to P and Z.
You know what? I think I agree with you, Mayor Pro Tem. I think I would prefer to have Mr. Vincent as the alternate on P and Z and keep Mr. Collins his first choice on BOA.
And we had Mr. Benson as the alternate on Board of Adjustment and Appeals too, so that would be an easier move.
Yeah. I think that makes sense. Okay, let me scroll to the top and make that change. So no alternate at the moment on BOA. All right, moving on to Police Officers Pension Board. We have Mr. Brooks there. And then Library Board, we have Mr. Gilbert and Gina Oberding there. And Sustainability, why did my sheet disappear? We have Michael Chisholm, Matthew Schultz, Logan Dunning, and alternates Kathleen Bailey and Tiana Duncan. ETAC, we have Mr. Chris Diedrich and Patrick Lewis. Urban Renewal Authority, we have Linda Cohn. And Water and Sewer Board, we have Tiger Reski. I think that's everyone. We have no alternate for BOA, but I think that matches all the others open spots. And we didn't leave anyone out. Can we confirm that? Jackie, go ahead. I see your hands up.
I'll let you, I don't believe we left anybody out,
Okay.
but I was just gonna run through them real quick when you get a second.
Yeah, go ahead. All right, we'll let you go.
Okay, for board BOA, I've got, for the 27th, we got Randall, Andy, and then Matt Collins, no alternate. And then code enforcement, I'm gonna email Andy about code enforcement. And then Englewood Housing, I have Mary Mills Lambert as 2023 and the alternates Madison. And then I've got Garrett down for Fire Pension Board. Historic Preservation is Kenneth Chu. NERP is Garrett. And then P&Z, we have Colin Haggerty for 27. Aaron Martinez got moved up. Our alternate's Michael Vinson. And then for 26 is Tiana?
No.
Sorry, and it's late. And for 25 is Hope. Then for Police Pension Board, we got Garrett. Public Library Board is Gina, and Scott Gilbert is the 27. Gina's 24. Sustainability is Logan, Michael, Matthew. The alternates are Tiana and Kathleen Bailey. And then ETech is Chris and Patrick. Urban Renewal is Linda Cohen, and Water Sewer Board is Ty Brisky.
You got it. I think we're good. Anything else, anyone? All right. I guess everyone, I think we're at 9 o'clock. We're before 9 o'clock, so I hit my my time limit. So with that, everyone, have a good evening. We will see you all next week. Have a good week.
All right.
Good luck,
Bye.
everyone. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Have a good night.
Right.